Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're to another year-end gaming episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's counting in 2003 with me tonight?
We've got Vincent Goodwin from the Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast.
This is Blair Farrell from comicbookvideogames.com and the future Conan.
And this is the Let's Play Princess, Phoebe Stanton over here.
And welcome back, all three of you. I know Vincent's been on, you've been on, what, 2 of these or 3 of these now, Vincent?
I thought I did 2011, but I couldn't find it in my records because I feel like I talked about Skyrim. I definitely did 2002, though.
Yeah, you were on that. I think you were on another one with me. The one we went 3 hours at one time, and we talked about like never did that. That was too long.
Yeah, that might have been 2011 because I talked about Tactics Ogre and all sorts of fun stuff.
Well, since you mentioned Tactics, you reminded me of a game that did come out this year. That, if I'm correct, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance came out this year.
Yes, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, the big Square Soft, or now Square Enix, return to Nintendo systems. Famously, Nintendo and Square had a big split right around the PlayStation era. Probably helped the PlayStation actually succeed a lot with like their, Final Fantasy VII, big things like that, drawing other third-party publishers over to the Sony PlayStation side instead of 3DO or all the other also rants. But that's 94 to 97. But
I have played Tactics Advance multiple times.
Right.
Never finished it. Played it on ROMs when I first got into emulation big time for GBA and when I was in high school in 2004. And then I played it again right before I met my wife. One day I'm going to finish that game. I keep telling myself.
It's kind of a BS game. It's kind of funny because I know a lot of people loved Final Fantasy Tactics, at least in those fields. And Advance isn't really a sequel, and it's framed as these are characters transported to a world. The first mission is a snowball fight.
Yep.
And then there's isekai.
Yeah, isekai, exactly. That's the word. Thank you. And then you have judges every level being you can't use swords this level, which I'm is fine, but I wish the game just prevented you from using that rather than you doing it and then you getting a yellow card.
You get punished.
Yeah, so I was that's I would rather it stop me. It's kind of a weird game. Tactics Ogre is better. And then Fire Emblem, another 2003 game, is also better. So it kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
I keep telling myself I'm going to beat it one day. When I met my wife, I was playing it a whole bunch during what I call my depressive time. And I was just sitting there, and then I was just sitting there playing it. And then I met her, and I never went back to it. And I'm like, God, one day I'm going to put this in the show and make myself finish it. But we'll see.
You should definitely.
A2 ever? Oh, sorry, Phoebe.
You should definitely finish it, but you should not 100% that game.
Oh, God, I don't 100% anything.
There's 300 missions in that game, and it gives you a secret ending. It's not worth it.
That's what YouTube's for. So
it is. Yeah, it's a wild game though historically because that is Square's first thing, and Square ended up making Crystal Chronicles the following year or in 2003 in Japan at least, and that was Square's first console game or first Nintendo game in 6 or 7 years. But they really wanted that Game Boy market. And so they made Tactics Advance. They ported all the other Final Fantasy games, although later than 2003. And then Sword of Mana also came, which I think is a remake of Final Fantasy Adventure, if I recall correctly. The first Game Boy game, which is also Secret of Mana 1, Seiken Densetsu 1, also came out for Game Boy Advance in 2003.
And now we got the whole trilogy finally.
Right.
Any history with this game?
Sword of Mana, my roommate played it. That's it. Sorry.
I have absolute zero history with this game. But the only thing
I just want to make sure we didn't pass you up in case you didn't say it.
The only thing I got from that conversation is that Naughty Dog still opening their game with a snowball fight from this game.
Hey, a good idea is a good idea. I remember getting that though when I was in my college dorm. I was playing in the library. I was playing it for review, and I'm like, "This is the Final Fantasy Tactics that everybody loves," because I didn't have a PlayStation 1. And
it's not.
Oh, okay. I know it's not now. A2 was I thought the sequel for DS was going to right the ship. And I think it's pretty similar. If you liked Advance 1, then you'd like A2. But if you didn't, you won't.
I've never played that either. I mean, I never got fired in.
Yeah. Don't do that one for the podcast. It's a long one.
I don't plan to I mean, I want to do the first one, but yeah, we'll see. There's other games I want to do more. Blair, do you have a game that you want to mention?
Yeah, but not a good one. Because it's funny because I looked back on this year, and at the start of this year was my second semester at university, and the lifestyle of a broke ass university student was setting in, so I didn't really have that much money to play games, and I was just trying to fit in more. So I kind of put games on the back burner for a long time until like the summer. But at the start of the year, and we kind of talked about this in the chat, like I was so beyond excited for Devil May Cry 2. And I remember reading the reviews in EGM, and it got like a 7 and a 6, and I can't remember the other reviews, and I was floored. And I never got to play it until a few months later, and I was like, I don't understand how it got these scores. And then I played it and totally realized why I got those scores, because it is so boring and pointless and atrocious. And I mean, it has a storied history that's in a, like that for a reason. I mean, it was just a poorly mismanaged project. Like Hideki Kamiya, who directed Devil May Cry 1, I don't believe was even made aware of its existence. And the person who I believe is now in charge of Devil May Cry, I don't remember his name, he actually saw through to the finish line. And I mean, he gets a lot of flack for that, but it's like, you can only polish a turd so much. Like, it's functional, but it has no soul whatsoever. And the only way it's like the Matrix sequels that like it constantly gets putting on Devil May Cry compilations, and the Matrix sequels aren't as bad as what people make them out, but it's like this game would be totally forgotten if it wasn't for like Devil May Cry compilations and trilogies.
I liked this game when I played it a couple years ago.
Really?
Yes, I actually had a really good time.
This
You
was
really love,
actually
like,
my
pumping-
first Devil May Cry game.
Oh no.
I almost gave up on the series, and I played 5, and it was like, what the hell? What did I miss? The 2 is just so bad.
It's
There's
easy.
nothing like pumping bullet after bullet after bullet into such memorable bosses as Infected Helicopter.
And
Okay, that part-
infected helicopter. And infected helicopter.
And Infected Tank. It's been a while. I just know that I didn't hate this game, and I beat it with both characters, and I was like, that was kind of fun.
Put all of your levels into the guns, and you win.
That's fine. Easy games. There's nothing wrong with some easy games. I want to put it on the show
Games
just
are
because
unfound.
I want to hear us talk shit about it for an hour, but one day. Vincent, do you have anything about Devil May Cry 2?
No, I never. I was not really in the
Oh.
PlayStation ecosystem at this
Oh,
point.
yeah.
I bought a I graduated high school in 03, and I bought a PlayStation purely for the DVD player. And I bought the PlayStation's number one piece of software, the Matrix movie. And then I bought GTA 3 and Jack and Daxter, and that's all I was playing on the PS2 in 03.
Okay.
So, it was a pretty good year for me.
You weren't playing this turd in 2000.
No, I never actually played a Devil May Cry, and
Don't
like
start
my
with this
history
one.
with Platinum games probably would say that I wouldn't like it, so I'm never gonna try it. So
I played 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the reboot thing, whatever you want to
DMC?
call it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that game.
DMC.
The
I heard
secret
that was
best
good.
Devil
And
May Cry
graphically, it
game.
looks nice.
It's a good game.
Yeah, it's
it
the
was a
secret
good
best
game.
Devil May Cry game.
I don't know about that, but it was a good game.
You should still play 5.
I haven't played 5. I
You
want
should.
to. I just, I'll get to it. Mostly because of this show, I go for older stuff. That's so I
Oh,
just
fair.
never get around to it.
DMC is a decade old.
God, I'm fine when
Was that
having
a
fun.
PS3? Was that a PS3 era game?
Yes.
It was, and then
Yeah,
it was
then
in that
360.
PS4 era where they're just like, we don't have anything to put on these machines, so here's a better version of Tomb Raider and a better version of Devil May Cry and a better version of The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, don't wait. There's more. You get Last of Us again on PS5.
And now PC and Steam Deck.
Fucking Last of Us. That's a whole nother thing. Oh, Vincent, do you have a game that you want to mention?
Oh, sure. So I actually would like to talk about my most expensive game I've ever owned. I own 2 copies of it. Ninja 5.0. Ninja 5.0. I was all in on the beginning. I saw Ninja as a 5.0. I love Hawaii 5.0. I love ninjas. This sounds awesome. Let's go. And for some reason, I was working at my website. I got sent 2 review copies back to back. Box is completely smushed. It's complete in box. They didn't look good. I was playing it like on the way to like a Foo Fighters concert in the back of my friend's car. I'm on my GBA SP, which also came out this year. We can talk about that a little later. But it is a cool like Ninja Bionic Commando style game. It is super expensive. Last I checked, like $700.
Yep.
And I owned 2 copies of it, and I gave away one on my website for a contest prize, and nobody entered because nobody wanted Ninja 5.0. But it is a highly sought after GBA game.
If I collected
so-
games, I'd take you up on that offer, but I don't collect games.
The box is in not good condition. I'll tell you that right now. Hudson's PR did not care about their shipping, but it's a pretty cool little ninja game. I highly recommend acquiring it in whatever way you could find a way to acquire it.
I don't
It's pretty
recommend
cool.
eBay, so.
Yeah, not eBay. I would not recommend it that way. But it's fun. So I would recommend Ninja 5.0.
Okay. And Phoebe.
Oh God, I looked through the list of all the games that released this year, and there are so many that hit different for me. This was the year. I think we've talked about this in the past when we recorded for an episode out yet. That my mom was the one who bought a lot of the weirder games for me. This is the year of all of those games that are just big parts of my childhood. Beyond Good and Evil, Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, Beautiful Joe, etc., etc.
Was it you I was talking about Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy with? In the text chat?
I'm not sure. I haven't been in the text chat yet. I'm sorry. I'm still waking up.
I remember that being such there were so many 3D platformers of this era, and not all of them were very good. But I remember Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy people being like, this one's pretty dope. And it was always like $10 at GameStop. So I 100% bought it and then never played it. And then when it came out on Switch, it also was like $10. So I bought it and still have never played it.
I love that there's a physical copy for the Switch. And there's
insane,
just been somebody on Steam who's been updating the game for years.
Really?
Yeah. So just one dedicated person. I don't know if they're part of THQ or what's been going on, but on Steam, every once in a while there's a patch. It's like I added, mouse controls for the first person shooter sections. I've added Arabic subtitles. And it's just like, who the fuck is this person? What's
Can't be. Is THQ even around anymore?
Well, no,
THQ Nordic now.
Oh.
Yeah, they broke apart, and then one of the companies bought everybody back. Embracer Group now probably owns Sphinx.
Yeah, it was Nordic Games, and then they bought the THQ name, and then they got Embracered.
Yeah.
Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy is a great game.
Never played it, but
do you know anything about it?
No, I know it exists.
It's interesting because there's two different playable characters, and it's two separate stories that fuse together. So about one half of the game is sort of a Zelda clone, where you play this character named Sphinx, has a sword, goes through dungeons, goes to towns, and buys items and stuff. In the other half of the game, you're playing this young Farrell. I want to say it's Tutankhamun, but it might not be. Who gets cursed?
Yeah, that's what the
mummy.
Wikipedia says. Yeah,
and it becomes, when you're playing as him, it's this platforming game where they're short levels. And it's more of Warrior Land 2 or Warrior Land 3, where because you're this immortal cursed mummy, you're slicing yourself in half and having to stand on two switches, or you have to light all these poles around the room, so you set yourself on fire.
Maybe I should get around to it someday.
Mike, this is probably like an iNinja level game of where it's probably IGN gave it an 8.5. It was, people were like, really? Okay. Whoever played it really glommed onto it in 03. And I'm and it was made by Eurocom, who made a lot of the James Bond games of that era as well. So
okay.
I bet it's iNinja level, which is also an 03 game that we covered, me and you, last year.
Nobody else would join me.
No, it's just a charming it sounds like a charming platformer 3D game that's punches above its weight. So yeah.
Well, I have an obscure game that I love that I couldn't remember was 2003, but I looked it up. Animusha Tactics for Game Boy Advance. It's a tactics RPG set in the Animusha world for Game Boy Advance that I freaking love this game. I played it when I first got an emulation in high school. And I remember my friends like, why are you playing this crap? You could be playing other stuff. And then I stopped playing it. And then 5 years ago, I think it was right before this podcast started or during the podcast, I don't remember. I played it on my phone and I went through this whole game. And it's a really, really good strategy RPG that people do not know of. And it's great.
I know of it, but I've never played it. Because I used to go on the Capcom website. No, I'm not very good at these games.
Well, the good thing about this game, which it doesn't tell you, but I had to find out through the internet, is if you die, you keep all the experience you get and you just redo the mission. So nice. There's parts in this game where I would just keep dying because I couldn't beat the mission, and then eventually I would just be strong enough.
Huh.
That's awesome.
But doesn't explain that at all.
That's a Dragon Quest model where you're eventually you're just gonna have the XP to kill whatever you're going to kill if you just keep beating your head with it.
It sounds like a bit too much work.
It's not short either. But
how does it fit in with the Onimusha legacy?
I don't. The only one I ever played is the first game, which I did for the show. So I don't really know. I know you fight Nobunaga,
but it's not like Nobunaga's Ambition.
No,
which was also a tactical RPG series that they merged with Pokemon in 2012. If you ever want to.
Oh god, that was a thing.
That's like saying,
Pokemon Conquest. Yeah.
It's like he fights Nobunaga.
Yeah, it was insane. It was like you could just made a Pokemon Tactics game, but they're like, no, we got to throw Nobunaga in this. Yeah, definitely.
It's a good game. I highly recommend if you like tactics RPGs and you never played it, which is probably 90% of the people listening to this episode or 99%. Pick it up. I mean, you don't buy it, but pick it up other ways.
Acquire it, yeah.
You can't buy it.
Onimusha was like Samurai Resident Evil, right?
Yeah,
like with like the static screens and stuff.
Yeah, it has the enemies.
Samurai Devil May Cry, I guess.
Eventually, your character can turn into an Onimusha, which you literally have to do to get through a level, because if you don't do it, he won't survive the cannon hits that a mission makes you. I mean, it tells you should transform, and I didn't want to. Well, you can't beat it if you don't do exactly that. But no, it's just a tactics RPG, but I fell in love with it. There's no job classes. You just have certain characters that have predetermined jobs, which I prefer, and you just go through this game. So, yeah. And it's really good. And I played it on a phone while I was pushing garbage back and forth a whole bunch of times.
Nice.
Because my job, I had to go out of the building, outside, down half a block, go inside a building, take an elevator down, go down a hall, dump the garbage, and go back with this cart. So I used to play on my phone the whole time and take my time when I was doing it. I got a lot of emotion in that way. But yeah, great game. That nobody talks about because most people don't even know it exists. And there's a crafting system too in it or something like that from what I remember.
Okay, I just threw up. You said the C word. That's my trigger.
You can make weapons and upgrade weapons, I think. I don't remember a whole lot. It's been a long time. It's a game that I keep thinking about, and it's been on the show a few times almost, where I've been on the list and I go, I'm not going to find people for this, and I take it off.
Do you like that genre a lot, or did this one just happen to click for you?
I like the genre, but this is one that really clicked for me. I usually suck at the genre.
Yeah, I do too. Like I love the idea of Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem, and then I'm like, I actually hate this.
Like another really random game that comes out that came out in 2003, also that I all of a sudden left my head. Yeah, I can't think of it. Go, someone else go.
Oh no, absolutely. I can carry you. We've got 2003 was a banner year for comic book video games, superheroes, and it kicked off pretty early with Daredevil for Game Boy Advance, which is just a normal beat 'em up game. It's kind of dull, but you get to use Daredevil's blind powers in a detective mode, a detective vision, before like Batman Arkham Asylum and all those kind of things. So that was pretty cool. The PS2 game was also supposed to come out at the same time and was advertised in comic books, but then canceled. So, but there's still Daredevil. Daredevil does still have his own video game for Game Boy Advance. It's not very good, but it does have detective vision, which is pretty cool.
Did you play it, Blair?
I have. Yeah, it's not very great.
It's a thing that exists.
It's a real bummer because I remember watching trailers for that game, and I know Liam Robinson did a deep dive into like what happened, and like I can't remember the studio. I know it was Encore was the publisher, and like they were like really ambitious, but they opened up a studio in Vegas, and I'm pretty sure everyone got like addicted to gambling. And honestly, I think that's what happened. Like they just got. And the budget kept getting reduced, and then it kept getting delayed, and then like Daredevil wasn't that big, so it was a whole bunch of circumstances led to being canceled. Because I think Daredevil like really needs a video game, and that would have been a good time because like Kevin Smith did the reboot, and then Brian Michael Bendis took it over, and it was even better.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the movie came out, and I mean the movie was what it was, but at that time it's like, okay, here's the thing, then you go out and buy the game. As like this year, like you have X2 Wolverine's Revenge and Hulk and a few other movie games, and it was in that era, and that's one I'm sad that we lost.
I mean, also maybe don't open a studio in Vegas is what I got to say too now.
Yeah, I think they moved there.
Okay,
and there might have been like a tax break. I really have to watch the video.
It's quite the gamble.
Yeah.
Well, Vegas, just if you're anywhere near that strip, it's just your money just flies out of your pocket. Like it's ridiculous. You're thirsty because you're out in the desert. $10 a bottle of water. Here you go. I'm
But the
exaggerating
staff is used
only
to
by
being
a little.
up until 5 a.m. So good for crunch if you're exploiting your workers, I guess. I mean, it's just kind of disappointing. Like Daredevil was very hot at that time, and then like it just kind of hit like a thud. And I always forget the movie exists, let alone the Game Boy Advance game. So it's there. It's a thing.
I didn't even know there was a GBA game. So hey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because everybody I think video of the PS2 game dropped or leaked a couple years ago. And so everybody's talking about it. I'm like, no, there's still a Game Boy Advance game. It came out right around then. So, but it's not very good. Not like our other great banner game, Batman Rise of Sin Shu, which is also not good. I don't know what the publishing history. There were so many bad Batman games on the GameCube.
I will argue with you and say if Batman Sin Tzu came out in the era of downloadable 360 games, that game would have been a hit.
Okay, I'll agree with you there. It shouldn't have been like a $50 game at the time. I'll agree with that because there was now I'm going off the radar. There was like a Watchmen game that was downloadable with Shark and who. How is that? I'm going
Never
off.
played it.
It's not great.
The end of is nigh or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Just a basic beat 'em up.
I've played Batman Rise of Sin Tzu recently, and because I kind of am nostalgic for it because the year it came out, it dropped price pretty fast, and I didn't have a lot of money to buy Christmas gifts. And my brother was coming home, and I was like, my brother loves Batman. I love Batman. This game is $29 brand new. So I bought it for him, and that Christmas we just played through the entire thing. He was Batman, I was Nightwing. It was incredible. But beyond nostalgia goggles, I just played it recently, and it's a beat 'em up, but it has a very robust combat system with really fun timing. The cutscenes are really sharp. It really sucks that you can be the different members of the Bat family, so you can play as Batman, Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl. This is all set in the animated series style. But in the cutscenes, they're just pre-recorded, so it's only ever Batman. So if you're just playing through Batgirl, Batgirl doesn't get her own cutscenes. But there's lots of unlockables. There's lots of costumes and icons of Mattel toys that were coming out at the time. I just think came out at the wrong time. Because I think if this would have came out $10 in the 360 era for extreme nostalgia for Batman the Animated Series, you can play these 4 characters. It would have been a different conversation. And this is also such an interesting project coming off of Batman Vengeance, which came out in 2001, where that game was an action platformer, first-person shooter vehicle game with fighting game elements. And it's not great. And the cutscenes are really bad. And this one is such a pared-down game. At a time when Batman the Animated Series was off the air for a while, I think Justice League was still on, but we were kind of over this, so it's such a weird time to put out a project on this license.
Right.
It probably doesn't help it either that this is a completely new villain, right?
The hubris of it. They were like, this villain will then be in the comics, but he's going to debut here.
Just use Ra's al Ghul.
Right.
He's voiced by Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat 95, so props there. I'm not going to pronounce his name.
Your soul is mine.
Or they just wanted to have make their own villains in a game or something and have it go on to other stuff. I mean, that doesn't always work.
Jim Lee designed or something?
There's a tie-in novel too. I have it.
Wow,
Shadows of the Empire style. They tried to push it. It was weird.
I want to play it. It's one of those games that I think about and I'm like, someday I'm gonna throw this on the show and I'm gonna play through it because I really want to.
It's backwards compatible on the 360 and it works really well.
It's also it'll play on my PC just fine. So I'm gonna play, but I really want to.
Still so weird that it's not Ra's or any other character. Batman has such a big, huge repertoire of villains that never seem to get used. Well,
Batman Begins was probably in development by this time, although maybe not when they started development of the game.
Where's some over Calendar Man? Or what's the yellow-skinned guy's name? The Creeper or whatever?
Oh, I know is it the Creeper or is that?
I want to say
he was Jack Ryder, and I think something happens. He's on the animated series. But
he's really good in the animated series, too.
They have Jeffrey Combs back as Scarecrow in this. It's great.
Okay, that
you got me interested, Blair. I'm gonna have to.
Jeffrey Combs is amazing.
To look this up now. Oh, but I remember the game I wanted to mention that I completely blanked on. Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising came out in 2003.
Might actually come out this year. It's a month away.
Never played it. I want to, and I keep telling myself one day I'm gonna play it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
You
all.
do it now legally.
Yeah, he's about to come out on the Switch in April, whenever this
Supposedly.
airs. Yeah. But I got Advance Wars 2 because I loved Advance Wars 1. It hit really well for me. It just hit at the right time, and I was, and we covered that episode, Micah, last year. But Advance Wars 2, I went on a cruise with my parents, and I was too cool for school, and I also was sick as a dog and got seasick, and so I stayed in the room the whole time and watched Two Towers and Daredevil on loop in the room while playing Advance Wars 2, and I had a pretty good time, if I'm going to be honest. It's a cool game because it expands. You have like the COs. You're only like on the orange or red team or something. You get to have different separate levels where it trades off, kind of like the new Mortal Kombat games, where you do like a couple missions as the red team, like Andy and Max and whoever, and then you jump over to play as Sammy's not the green group, and then the yellow group, and then the other group, and the blue group. So it's a lot more diverse in the CO powers. It's a much better campaign, I think.
I really want to play it, but it's also like 20-hour game. So
yes, it's a very long game, and if you're not good at strategy RPGs, you probably won't like it.
Well, but yes, but it just. Oh, and before, because I need to stop talking, but I have to mention one other game that just popped in my head, and I'm curious if any of you guys have any idea what this game is. Know this game called Chaos Legion for PS2. It came out in 2003.
It's a Capcom game that's like a Dynasty Warriors clone. Am I wrong?
And you can summon enemies. I only know it because a friend of mine had recommended it, and I actually have a copy of it near me, and I never got around to it, playing it for more than like an hour. And you get it. There's a character you get with gut, like your main guy has sword and looks kind of like Squall, and then it's like a Devil May Cry type clone, and then you have the other character is a girl with a gun that just shoots constantly.
Oh no, Devil Kings. That's the Dynasty Warriors.
Oh yes, yeah. But I think Chaos Legion, I think it's Capcom also. Yeah, but that's also
they both are. Yeah, my roommate has it, and I remember she was a fan. I know the cover, but I can't remember like what the actual game is.
It's just an action game like Devil May Cry, I think, from what I'm seeing. It's nothing. I've never. It's just one of those games that I like. It's another one of those games that I think about, and I'm like, I should really go back and play this one day and put it on the podcast, but it's just so obscure, and I'm like, but yeah. Just one of those weird games that I didn't realize came out this year, but as I'm going through the list, I'm like, I had to mention it. Phoebe, is there a game that you want to mention we haven't brought up yet?
Oh, God. You and I have done an episode all about one of them.
Oh, is that 2003 also?
Yeah, Bowtie.
Oh.
Besides that, man, I'm surprised nobody's talked about the fact that Wind Waker and Aria of Sorrow both came out this year.
It's because I didn't play either in those years. I never had a GameCube until Christmas of 2004. I never played Aria of Sorrow until I got a DS Lite. I had the Castlevania 2-pack. And Wind Waker I never played till like 2004. But yeah, Aria of Sorrow is... I think it's like Circle the Moon was gorgeous, or it had great music, but you couldn't see it. And Harmony of Is it Despair or Dissonance? Dissonance. They bumped up the contrast, but the music suffered. And Aria of Sorrow was like the perfect combination of the two.
Right. Yeah, I loved Circle of the Moon, and I'm kind of like a weirdo, I think, in that regard. And my Game Boy, I always actually was able to see it pretty well. So I had a different experience than most people. But I loved Circle of the Moon. It was my first Metroidvania ever. I never played Symphony. I never played any of those. So I was mind blown by it. And then really, really disappointed by Harmony of Dissonance. So I completely bounced off. I never even checked out Aria of Sorrow until much, much later. And then compared to Dawn of Sorrow, which is the DS game that I think came out the next year, which is a little like overwrought with like touchchscreen bullshit. Like Aria of Sorrow is such a good, solid game. It's weird also because it's like Castlevania of the future. Because it takes place
the latest point in the timeline currently.
Right.
Yep.
It's just a solid Metroidvania. They start fucking with the formula by the time you get to like Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia. So like Aria of Sorrow, of that branch of Nintendo Metroidvania Castlevanias, it's the best. It's really, really good.
It also has a surprisingly strong plot, especially since it's a Game Boy Advance game. But
it's a good game.
The idea that they locked Dracula's castle away and permanently killed him because he's no longer attached to his castle. So you're the reincarnation of him. That's such a cool idea. And the fact that they actually tie everything together by the end with the rest of the lore to the point that you kind of permanently kill the castle. That's such a cool idea.
Until the next game, but yes.
That's what I love about
It's a different
Dawn
castle.
Yeah,
That's what I love about Dawn of Sorrow, because if you get a quote-unquote bad ending, you get to play as Julius, Alucard, and I
And
can't
Yoko.
remember her name.
Yoko.
Yes.
Yeah, Yoko.
And it's essentially like Dracula's curse, and you have to go kill Soma. And it's one of the best bad ending bonuses ever.
I thought you got that for just being the game. Maybe I'm wrong.
there's like another ending where like, because I know this has multiple endings depending on, I've only finished it. I haven't finished it in a while. I was actually playing around with it today on the Castlevania Advanced Collection, which is
That's so
worth
great
it just
that,
for this.
that exists. That makes me happy. I bought it
Yeah.
actually, which is just because I wanted to support them.
Yeah, and I remember I was just looking at them like the Steam sale, and it was like $11.99. I'm like, that's too much for that. And then I'm like realizing like, oh yeah, Aria Sara's on that. Aria Sara's worth $12. Aria Sara's
Aria
worth
Sara.
$20.
The Circle of the Moon
Circle Moon's
for
great, too.
$12.
I love Circle of the Moon. Circle of the Moon gets a little bullshitty, but man,
You don't play it on a phone, by the way. Without a
Yeah, I
controller.
love
The
it
first
too.
time I
It's
played
my
it was on a
favorite
cell
too.
phone with no controller, and I was trying to do those button combinations to do like the spells. That was really hard. Yeah, don't do that.
But you don't have
Yeah.
like the Dawn of Sorrow, like where you have to do a touch screen like rune after you kill the boss, or they get half their health back.
Well, yes, but there's a version on emulators on PC where they patch that out, so you don't have to do it.
Hey, howdy, hey.
It's actually on the show
Okay.
coming up, and that's why it's on the show, because I can skip that bullshit. So
Interesting.
Such a
You have my
fucking
attention.
stupid design. But they
Well, what
had to
was
do
the-
it because it's the DS. You have to have something with the
and it's
touchscreen.
early DS though. So that's a
Yeah,
big part.
yeah, and the thing also is wild is like Circle of the Moon is like June 01, and I don't remember when Aria came out, and then Harmony of Distance
Aria
is like
2003.
October 02, and then Aria's 03 at some point, and then Dawn of Sorrow is 04, I think. Like they came out with 4 of these, like bam, bam,
Oh.
bam.
Dawn of Sorrow was like 2005. The DS came out in 2004, so I guess Dawn of Sorrow would have been a year 2 game. I looked
Yeah.
at, I know Harmony of Dissonance was like fall 2002, and Aria of Sorrow was May 2003.
Really, that quick? Wow,
Yeah,
6 months.
Harmony's not a bad
7
game though.
No, it's not. It's a good game. It's just
it's a
overcorrected.
lot of nonsense with the double castles. It's really annoying to navigate.
That's why you go to FedEx and print a map out and then have it when you play your game.
Well, you
every-
can't do that
every
when you're playing for a
Metro
review
game I
before it
play.
comes out, Mike. You can't do that.
When you go back and
had to do.
play old games like me every week, it's easy.
That was a hard game to Harmony was a hard game to play for review. I'll tell you that.
Every game I play now, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
Anytime I
speaking
play,
of-
I have to go out and get a map. I have to go and print a map because it's just means so much to me to have that physical map just to
That's
have.
cool. That's cool. There's a Twitter account that makes like 3D maps of like Tomb Raider and like other PS1 games. And it's also very, very cool to see.
Oh,
But
and
I-
Phoebe, what
DG
was the other game?
cartography.
Wind Waker.
Okay, I forget when Waker was 03. I got it in 03. I thought it was stupid, and I didn't play it till 06.
How dare
And
you, sir.
I know I was
dare you.
wrong. I really
It's
liked
the
it in
only
06.
3D
my
Zelda
girlfriend-
game I have liked so far.
Yeah. So we covered this on the O2 episode, and I was real incredulous because everybody insisted it was an O2 game, which technically it is in Japan. But I was real incredulous towards the other panels. I'm like, it's an O3
I just
game.
I just looked up that, we could also talk about Darkened Sky and that same idea, because in the PAL regions it came out in 2003.
Yeah.
I have a copy of Dark and Sky.
Is that the Skittles
behind
game?
me.
That's the Skittles game.
Nice.
Okay, so I was also thinking the same thing.
It's not. I bought it cheap, but I bought it at GameStop, and I was like, I'm gonna play, and yeah, it's just sitting there on my shelf behind me. I'll never probably play it, but it's a Skittles game, and it's not good.
But
Oh, yeah.
but I do love Wind Waker. I love the personality of it. I love the vibes of it. It is a very thin game that doesn't have many enemies, and the sea is kind of dull and boring. But the vibe of the whole, and it only has like 2 towns, but it's still like a really good vibe. My 18th birthday, I remember skipping school just to play Wind Waker, and it was a glorious day, and it was very nice. It's a very, very pleasant game.
It's so pretty too.
It's so pretty, and it holds up really well. And wildly, the HD remake is 10 years old now at this point. So
Oh
it's
god.
crazy.
Damn,
When
I
did they
have.
port that to Switch?
That's what I'm waiting for. I want to put it on the show, that and Twilight Princess, but I want to play the HD version because they make things simple, a little easier in a couple spots. And
Mhm.
much as I don't buy Switch, I'm waiting for it to get released on Switch, but Nintendo doesn't seem to agree with me. So
Well, they have a new Zelda game coming out in May that they have to put a lot of marketing dollars into, and they really want you to buy, so they're not going to split that up and put
Yeah.
out Wind Waker anytime soon.
Maybe next year.
No.
Think we'll get it next year?
It'll be first year
It would
Switch.
be nice.
Be the first year
In the
Switch
fall, maybe? Or maybe they'll shadow drop it like they did Metroid this year. That would also be
Yeah.
okay.
God, that Metroid.
That's
Prime
what it should have been.
Drop is so
Shadow
good.
dropped last summer. They should have done Skyward Sword in 2021, and then Twilight Wind Waker dual pack in 2022. But they haven't.
They're not going to do a dual pack like they should. They're going to do here. You can get each one for $50.
I feel like Wind Waker is going to come within the first year of the Switch because there won't be a Zelda ready for it There's not going to be another new Zelda for 6 years, like straight up. So at least,
Yeah, it'll be a while.
there
So
will be a
that-
Wind Waker between that.
The HD remaster for Wind Waker.
Yes,
That's on the Wii U, right?
correct.
Yes.
Since they can't do the link cable with the Game Boy Advance to give you the Tingle Tuner, can you use amiibos for the same factor, or
What
Is
did
that
the
just
Tingle
completely
Tuner
taken
do? Did
out?
it like shake to tell you that like hey stuff was going on?
you could use a second player or just yourself using the Game Boy Advance could use a rupees from inside the game and buy little power-ups and stuff to help you along. Like if you fall off a platform, you instead levitate in the air for a few seconds and can run quickly back on. Wile E. Coyote style, you can buy some special bombs so you're not using them directly from your inventory. It was just a list of little boosts that didn't break the game, but were there if you needed them in exchange for rupees.
Did amiibos exist when Wind Waker came out? I'm going to say no.
No,
that was
Wind
a
Waker
Wii
because
U thing.
Amiibos came out in 2014 with Smash Bros.
Oh,
Because
they weren't
Disney
out.
Infinity was 2013.
Oh, never mind.
I'm just thinking that since you can't do the Game Boy Advance thing, amiibos would be the next
No,
closest thing to
I
keep the Tingle
Googled it
Tuner in the
now,
game
and
instead of
there's just
just
a lot of,
completely
like,
taking it out.
Is anybody? All these Reddit threads are like, is anybody disappointed they took it out? What the fuck
Nah.
was it here?
Should put it back in for the Switch version if they put it on the Switch.
Not like the machine didn't have a second screen.
No. Hey, Miiverse hooked up with it. You could have little people with their send you messages in a bottle that you would find in the ocean, which actually
That's
that was really
cute.
fun. It was
That
very
was cute.
cute.
I
And
really
they got
want to
rid of-
play Wind Waker again. So
Wind
much.
Waker was the game, and I've talked about this before, where it wasn't necessarily bad, but it had this thing of like, okay, now you're gonna have to go across the ocean and find 6 random pieces that you're gonna have to go trudge for in the ocean to bring the
That's
Triforce back together.
Why the Wii U is better.
Yeah,
And-
you got to go find a map, then take it to Tingle and pay him to translate it. And then you got to go find the piece by driving in the middle of the ocean. And I said, no, I will not do this. And then I didn't beat the game again for 10 years. I actually ended up playing it. It's totally fine. It's really easy. Use a guide. Get through it in an hour. It doesn't matter. But
That's
I didn't
why-
play the game for an hour because I thought the prospect of it was bullshit, not the fact that it was.
I've only ever finished it once. As I remember, I was in the era, I was in high school when quote unquote Zelda was announced. So I
Yes.
was of the too cool for school, Hermes, the dentist elf from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Link. But then my friend got it and he was like, no, it's really good. So when I got my GameCube in 2004, like this and Metroid Prime and Mario Sunshine were all like $20 games. So that Christmas, I got it and I just was mesmerized and loved it. And then every time I've tried to play it again, I just constantly lose steam and just give up. I've never been able to finish it again, even though I know a finish is really strong. I just always get bored and move on to something else.
I get that. If it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't finish. Right, I wouldn't play some of the stuff I play. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to finish games. Like you just need that, and that's a game that just it goes for a long time. I think, but you can overstay its welcome. I haven't played it since high school, and I think about it a lot.
I absolutely agree. Like the Zelda games are ones that I lose momentum in all the time. And I that's why I've never beaten Ocarina of Time. I'll say that. But yeah, and even Wind Waker's a pretty short one compared to Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. So it makes it like my favorite of that type of 3D Zelda. Now Breath of the Wild is broken. I would say Wind Waker's my favorite of that.
Oh, and I have 2 games I want to mention quick that came out. One that's really quick that I doubt any you guys know about. Otogi that came out in 2003 for an Xbox exclusive game from original Xbox.
OTOGE?
OTOGI, Otogi Myth of Demons. You're like I don't know, you fight a bunch of monsters and it's like a Devil May Cry style game and it's really damn cool, but it's locked to the Xbox and it might be backwards compatible in 360, but I don't know.
I've heard of it. I probably saw it in reviews on the run. And I've also got it mixed up with Okage the Shadow King, which was a PlayStation 2 game.
Yes,
At
which
some
is
point.
I've played as on other systems, and I have it on other systems. But no, it was just a beat 'em up game that a friend introduced me to, and I've always been a big fan of it. And the other game that I want to mention quick that you guys might be familiar with, that I will praise this game every chance I get. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Game Boy Advance, which is based on the first season of the 2003 show.
Oh, how's the Game Boy Advance version? I had the GameCube version on my list.
It's really, really good.
Is it good?
I emulated it back in 0304. I played it again since then. It's broken up into 4 levels. It's kind of like it's a side scroller beat 'em up, but you have different levels that are based on some of the early episodes where you play as the turtles. And I've always liked it. And I actually want to go back and replay it again for this podcast, but it's just a really cool game. And it came out in 2003 also.
The DBA definitely seems like the system for really good TMNT games, because there's a TMNT game as well for the 2007 movie on the GBA, right? That's supposed to be really good.
Yes.
It's by the Scott Pilgrim people.
Is it really?
Yeah. It looks exactly like Scott Pilgrim.
I'm gonna have to emulate this now.
And is that same people from that team ended up making Shredder's Revenge also?
Yeah,
Yes and
Not
no.
the exact team, but I think people. That's what I may have heard.
So, Mike, Otogi is backwards compatible on Xbox Series X and S, and I believe you can buy it digitally on the store for $19.99.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I just saw that right now. I was just
It makes me
online
happy
right now.
because
It's
I
a
just
From
found out
Software
that
joint.
I can
true.
play it other ways now, and I'm gonna go back and play it because I've always it's been a game that's been on my list to play forever, and I'm not gonna hook up my old Xbox, and that's cool though. I'm glad. I'm always happy when games are re-released digitally different ways so people can experience them.
This is
Makes
why
me happy.
Released,
Xbox
they
is
just
great.
never got rid of it. It's more probably the they never.
That's fine.
No, that's
I
great
mean-
though. That's the great thing about the Xbox is there's like crazy things on the Xbox.
Yeah, like
and
I had
Blair,
Panzer
by the way-
Dragoon Orta on that machine.
I know. They also have one of my favorite games ever that's going to be on my top 3 for 2003 is SSX3 is still available on the Xbox store. You can buy it right now and play it on your Xbox Series X in glorious 4K. SSX3 is so fucking solid. It is such a good snowboarding game. It like elevated, it like turned it slightly into an open world game where like you go down the mountain and then you can start different races based off the branch, or you can go to different like tracks. And then you can press like the Y or X button to like zoom backwards like 5 seconds if you really, oh shit, I missed that turn for my level. And so it took everything out of a menu, and it has like great stat progression. It was just, it's the peak of the, and that's pun intended, I guess, the peak of the SSX series is SSX3. Chef's Kiss, regularly $5 on sale on the Xbox store. It's great. They never deleted it.
I have to look into that.
So, and Blair, do you have any other games that you want to mention?
I was going to segue into one, but I think I'm going to save it for later and do something smaller because this is kind of cheating, but also kind of not. So in 2002, there was a Superman game that came out called Superman Shadow of Apocalypse. Based on the Superman animated series, it's a very strong 6.57 out of 10. I consider it my favorite Superman game. In 2003, it came out on GameCube. What most people probably don't know, well, they probably forgotten this game exists. The GameCube version is a quote-unquote director's cut that's not advertised as such. It added difficulty levels, which the PS2 version didn't have. It offered progressive scan support and behind-the-scenes stuff. So it's like secretly the best way to play one of the best Superman games. Keep your eyes peeled because I'm kind of working on something about it. Trying to keep down low in case it doesn't happen. And it had a companion game on the Game Boy Advance called Superman Countdown to Apocalypse, which is not great. But yeah, it's so weird that like this Superman game came out and then normally games came out on the same time, but then it gets a few months more and then new stuff added. It's like weird. It's such an interesting thing to me.
No, that's cool though. I think we might have talked about this game before somehow, but yeah, it's one I've never played. I don't really follow Superman stuff in general, but that's cool.
Oh, well, you should change that because Superman is just absolutely the best. And
No, this game looks interesting. I'm looking up videos right now about it. This actually looks pretty cool. I'm gonna have to try this someday.
play it on GameCube.
I would. Well, not
Dolphin
on a
emulator
GameCube,
works
but
really
yes.
well. FYI. On your Steam Deck that I know you have.
Yes, that's how I would play it. That's how I play everything. If I can help it, everything is on Steam Deck.
I don't know if this is breaking the rules, but so I think 2003, I think it was started in North America. The Mega Man Battle Network anime started broadcasting in North America, I believe.
There was an anime of that?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
It has
And
multiple seasons.
right now,
Really?
check your local listings.
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Capcom's Twitch channel is streaming marathons of it. They've been doing it all week. And it's on their YouTube channel in preparation for the Battle Network Legacy Collection coming out next month, which I guess has Mega Man Battle Network 3, which came out in 2003,
Yes.
which was the
And
first
Network
one where they...
Transmission.
Yes.
Which we're not
is...
going to talk about.
Is that the GameCube
Yeah.
game?
That's the GameCube game that sucks.
It's really hard.
I
Battle Network
have
3 is...
completely skipped all the Battle Network stuff. I
Oh,
have.
they're good? Well, I wouldn't say they're good.
They're
They're
good,
something.
but they're very familiar and they get pretty tedious.
Yes.
And
I
I'm
only played
worried...
3.
Excuse me.
I'm curious about them.
Do not play the GameCube one.
No, that's like a 2D platformer. It's weird.
It is an open world game that plays like the other Metroid games. Or not the other Metroid games, sorry. The other Mega Man games. But it keeps the Battle Network system. So you are fighting Mega Man 1 style bosses. But every few seconds you have to, shut your brain off, pause it, and bring up your chips to actually be able to use some of your special attacks.
Weird.
And this was the year when because Mega Man Battle Network 1 and 2 came out, and 3 was when they got bold and were like, we're going to Pokemon this and just have blue and white.
Mhm.
And then the year after it was Red Sun and Blue Moon, then Team Proto Man, Team
Colonel, and then
Cyber
the
Beast,
two Cyber Beasts.
Falster, and Cyber Beast Gregor, question mark? I was checked that
So-
up.
the only ones I haven't
remember
played
them.
yet.
I don't know why I've never actually messed with that series. I don't have an actual reason. I just never gotten around to it.
Don't go too deep into it just because each media format that it's in is a completely different universe with completely different rules.
I don't know how, I really liked Mega Man Battle Network 3 Blue, which I reviewed at the time, and that came out for this year, 2003 we're talking about. I liked that one a lot. I don't know how you would play that Switch game and play all 6 of that game. I feel like that would get very tedious if you wanted to play all 6 Battle Network games.
It was
that'd be a
hard
lot.
at the time, because I remember I got Battle Network 1, and then 2 came out a couple months later, and they were coming out every year.
Yeah.
And the start of every game is they teach you how to play, and it's I know how to shoot, I know how to use my chips. Stop teaching me like a dummy.
Oh, don't worry. Shameless plug. When that Battle Network Legacy Collection comes out, I'm streaming every single one of them.
Just to warn you guys, this might not be up by
And-
then. So.
And it's
That's
Let's Play
fair.
Princess is what your handle is?
The Let's Play Princess, yeah, on
Perfect.
YouTube, Twitch, all that good stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Except for Twitter,
good
because
luck
that's
to you.
too long, so it's the LP Princess.
Well, good luck to
This
you.
comes out. This will be released May 2nd. So
Well, that's not
Okay.
bad.
All right. So Advance Wars 2 is already out, possibly.
yes, the book episode's also out too. So.
We'll find out. But
You know me,
man, it was a really cool RPG. What I played of it, it was a little bullshitty, and it's I think it had random battles, but it was a really fun, weird plug-in world to Mega Man. But it was Mega Man were different. All the bosses were programs, but they also evoked the name, you were fighting a Wily and a whatever cutman.exe file, and the battle system is kind of actiony, but it's also slightly card based, which I usually hate card based RPGs, but you would go in a little battle thing, and it was really cool. You were on a grid, you would push your buttons, you would get a different loadout each time you'd fight. It would be really cool. They made a cool roguelike using that battle mode called One Step from Eden. It was published by Humble Games a year or two
Yeah, is
ago.
that any good?
I mean, if you like the Battle Network battle mode and don't really want to deal with all the bullshit of walking back and forth and getting random battles the rest of Battle Network, it's pretty good. I would pay less than $10 for it, but it got me the taste. I'm because I missed Battle Network. I was man, it's been 20 years since I played this. I should get it. And I'm I'm not gonna deal with as Blair mentioned, all that teaching me how to play again. So I played One Step from Eden. It's fine. And then my run was 40 minutes, and I was I've got enough, and I walked away from it. So check it out if it's cheap or in a humble bundle.
Okay.
Oh, and then there's another game that I'm scrolling through here. I have to mention. I don't have much to say. 13 came out in 2003 also.
Ooh, I covered that on my video series. That was a game on All My Friends Are Right
We
Here.
also have an episode about that I
Oh, you
I
mean
screwed
the
up on.
the
114.
first person shooter?
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Sorry,
thinking
David
Final Fantasy
Duchovny and Adam
13 for a
West.
second, and I'm like, that's way too early.
It's a good game.
It
I heard
is.
the remake is
So-
absolute garbage.
So, you're lucky that, well, maybe not, that I'm here because I have reviewed both 13 2020 and 13 2022 because they fixed the remake.
They fixed it?
Yeah. They hired another studio to fix it. It's still not perfect. But I just go to comic book video games and look at my review for 13 2020 because I have like Twitter videos of me falling through the floor. It's so hilarious.
That doesn't
which
sound
is-
very fixed.
But no,
that's
this is when
yes,
this is
the
for
original
2020 because they put it on a PS5 and Switch because originally it was supposed to come out on Switch and it never. And it's a shame because like 13, it's like a really strong 6-7, but it has so much style and the remake doesn't have any of that. Like I love like how it looks and like the onomatopoeia that comes out of your guns. Like David Duchovny is phoning it in is like doing a disservice to like his work because like, oh my god, I just killed someone. It's like, you want to do a second take, David? No, I have to go. Like, okay,
Next
fine,
line.
cut.
People might have said I might have shot the president. I might.
Get even Adam West in here.
Adam West is great in that movie. This style is so cool. I'm sorry, not movie. That game. That's quite the game. I was all in on it. I was very excited for 13. The
I
multiplayer is
hated
actually
it
not bad.
when I
either.
put it
You
for the
hated it?
show.
I don't think it's got that problem. I think where some of the levels are a little too long.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult even with save states, and that's
Yeah, it gets punishing at points.
that's how I judge your game. If I'm having a hard time and I'm cheating, your game's a little too hard.
But man, its style was so cool.
Oh, yeah. I actually read the
era of
comic.
shell shading. I started checking out the 13 comic because of this, and then kind of lost interest because I
Same.
felt like the game story seemed more interesting than the comics or the way it was telling it. But and then there were several like 13 movies. There were several 13 movies with like
And
Val
a TV
Kilmer,
show.
Yeah.
Stephen Dorff and Val Kilmer.
Yeah. What a time! What a time to be alive.
Oh, and I never played this, but I'm just scrolling through. One of the games that came out in 2003 is Yu Yu Hakusho Spirit Detective, which I just looked it up. It's like top-down action Game Boy Advance game. I'm in. I love that show, by the way, up until a point. Yeah, it's like the first season of the show, or up until the Dark Tournament. It goes to. It looks like
When they fight, what's his name, Toru, whatever.
the Goro for the first time.
Yeah, then you can stop.
The Dark Tournament's good. It just goes on for too long.
Yeah, but then it also goes into the fact that his dad's a devil, and
That's not till after the Dark Tournament. Then you have the third season volume where then he fights the old Spirit Detective. Then it's after that they finally talk about. Then you have the Demon Tournament where they go into him being a devil. That's when it's fair enough.
should just kept him an awesome person.
I also have there's Funko Pops of this, and I have all the Funko Pops for the series. There's not many. There's like 6 of them, but yes. Phoebe, any other games you want to mention?
Oh god, we could go down a list. Of course, we haven't talked
Let's
about
take our
anything
time.
like Soul Calibur yet.
Is
When
Soul
is Soul
Calibur
Calibur
2 this year?
Yeah.
Soul
With
Calibur
Link?
2 was 2003, and
Yeah.
it's the
Holy
first
shit.
one where it has console exclusive characters. You have
Featuring
Link on
Todd
the GameCube version,
McFarlane Spawn.
AIG in the PS2 version, and good old Al Simmons Spawn in the Xbox version for whatever reason. Don't have Master Chief or anything, just put Spawn in it.
Brr, 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 brr. Nintendo fanboy here. Soul Calibur 2 sold the best. That's right.
Why
Because Soul
Spawn?
Calibur 2 is the best one.
Why Spawn? Because Todd McFarlane designed the character Necrid, who is in Soul Calibur
Oh,
2. Also, Namco that year, or possibly a year after, I get it mixed up, they were also working on a Spawn game, Spawn Armageddon. Oh, I was going to say Todd McFarlane's Evil Prophecy, but that was Konami. So that's a completely different studio and a completely different disaster.
Oh, yeah.
okay, that makes
Link-
sense. I
Link was on
forgot
the
that he
GameCube, wasn't
designed Necrid.
The real answer is why not Spawn?
Because you get Link in one game, which was the GameCube version, which I bought full price. You get Hachi in the PS2 version, which I thought was stupid, but I mean, it makes
From
From
sense.
what I
Stupid.
just read, it was supposed to be Cloud. The deal broke.
Man, I would have bought that. So
See, I played the GameCube version. And
Same.
even then, I didn't play as
Everyone
Link.
played the
I played a lot
GameCube
of
version.
Callum and Maxie.
I just played as Link. I played the entire game as Link, and that's all I did because that was the only character that was I wanted to play as.
That got me in the door.
I've
Phoebe,
never
Phoebe, as you
played
mentioned,
another one
Right.
since this.
you know, I think it was a savvy move to try to get Nintendo gamers who are notorious Nintendo fanboys to pay attention to games by putting characters that they care about in there. I think they ended up doing it with an SSX game later, and we'll get to another game in just a sec about that. But Phoebe, the only time I ever played Soul Calibur 2 was on the Nintendo GameCube preview disc, which famously Nintendo never did demo discs. PlayStation had one like with like the jam packs and like their magazines. Like
Thunder
once a
Volume
month, you got
8 was my demo disc for the PlayStation 1, so yeah, I
Oh
understand.
my gosh, I spent a whole night just eating pizza and playing like Tony Hawk's Level 1 because that was on one of my friend's demo discs. But Nintendo had released one demo disc. They had the chutzpah to release it for $10. They charged you money for it, and it had
Nintendo.
and it had Soul Calibur 2 on it. The first level of Beautiful Joe,
Yeah.
the first level of Billy Hatcher, and the first level of Splinter Cell, and maybe
Man.
the first level of Sonic Adventure DX, and maybe a Big the Cat fishing level.
I
Was
think my
Billy
friend
Hatcher
had
2003? Can we talk about that?
Yes, 100%. I'm queuing you up. I have a Billy Hatcher shirt. It's amazing. It's a game.
Oh,
Blair, you were gonna say
sure
something?
for that?
No,
want a
I just
hoodie with
I
the
just
chicken
remember my
hat on.
friend had this disc, and I couldn't remember if it was Sonic Adventure or Sonic Heroes.
No, I don't know.
Sonic Heroes
No,
did come out in
Sonic-
2003.
Well, we have Sonic Heroes of 2003, and we have Sonic Adventure, the DX version for the GameCube came out
I
this
think it
year,
was
as
Sonic
well as
Adventure
Sonic
DX.
Advance 2. Pretty good year for Sonic, it seems.
Yeah. Sonic, it was on Nintendo, which, you know, I fought on the side of the console wars, and Mario was my guy. So
I
Sonic was
still-
here.
I've never played Billy Hatcher, but I think about that game every so often. I'm like, I want to play it for this podcast just because.
It's a solid 7.5 to 8 out of 10.
Okay, I'm all right with that.
There are some broken, glitchy problems with that game and some other control-wise problems, but it's solid.
It just looks. I don't know what it is. It's one of those games that I'm like, this just because I loved GameCube because I had a GameCube first before PS2 and Xbox, so I looked at GameCube games more often, but they were always more expensive at EB Games when I was during that era. So I would buy PS2 and Xbox first just because they were usually cheaper. The GameCube always had Nintendo tack added to it.
Just imagine Balan
Interesting.
Wonderworld, but good.
It's the
I
only
almost
game.
bought
It's the
that
only
one.
game we'll mention whose creator has been arrested for insider trading.
Like twice. For two separate companies.
Well, I mean, we've already brought up 13, and that's, problematic Ubisoft, so, and there's probably at least two more games we're going to bring up, from that same publisher.
Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil. What's the other one?
Splinter Cell.
What's the other one?
It's 2003.
Oh,
Never
Prince
played
of
them.
Persia, The Sands of
Yeah.
Time, with the
Oh,
great-
that's 2003 also.
yeah, I never played it.
Oh, I have. With
Oh,
Vincent
heart.
actually.
I went straight to
Oh,
two
my
Prince.
heart. I was on that
Because I
episode
borrowed
at
it
the
from
time.
somebody.
Would you like to be on the Warrior Within episode? Mike keeps texting me, and I would like a friend.
Well,
Come on.
no, Mike has to do the Warrior Within episode by himself because Mike will stand alone.
God damn it,
I've never played
Scotsman.
Warrior
Why
Within.
is that the song for that game?
Because it's in the game.
Is that the Godsmack song?
Oh, yeah.
361. I'll join for that episode.
Warrior Within just looks so violent.
Persia.
It actually has a great story. It's just so much 2000 Prince of Persia has a great art style, but people in that era were just, and it's I can't blame them because Grand Theft Auto was the popular thing. People wanted mature stuff. So Prince of Persia comes out and it has this great art style, and people are like, I don't care. It looks like that. So then it's the same thing that happened to Jack, where it's okay, Jack's cartoony. Now we have to give him a goatee and guns, and he has to be edgy. And Prince of Persia.
Let's take this Banjo-Kazooie knockoff and then make it gritty. It was a
Let's
time.
make this excellent platformer, one of the greatest platformers of all time, and make it the worst open world game ever that's hair-pullingly difficult. And then they put a Warrior Within, which has a great story. It's just all the enemies are in S&M gear, and it has some really cool chases. And then they kind of course corrected with the Two Thrones. It kind of brought it all together. but by gosh, Prince of Persia.
Doesn't
Like,
he even have the comb over hair in Warrior Within? He just looks like he would listen to Good Charlotte or him in high school.
and
It looks
it's so
terrible.
funny to think about because I haven't bought an Ubisoft game new probably since Rayman Origins or Legends, and I absolutely detest them. I hate the games they put out. I hate the people running it. I dislike everything about the company. But this year, they were firing on all cylinders. And it's so funny to think about. If I say the words Ubisoft in this conversation right now, you know exactly what you're thinking of. You're thinking of a bloated open world full of stupid, obnoxious checkpoints, 100 hours of pointless gameplay,
Towers.
and that's all of their games.
How dare you insult my Far Cry, Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, Immortals Phoenix Rising, the Riders Republic like that? How dare you?
That's Ubisoft TM.
Don't forget half the Rainbow Six games.
Yeah.
And is the Division like that too?
Probably. I don't know. That's probably just another looter shooter.
Yeah.
But then this year, you have like a Batman beat 'em up, a stylish cel-shaded first-person shooter, beautiful, well-told story game with Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, which is it just marries the medium of storytelling and video games so well. Like when you die, because the concept of the game is that the prince is telling the story. So when you die, it's like, oh no, I didn't fall down that hole, and it's so terrific. Oh my god, I love it so much. And I was never a Prince of Persia guy. Like even when this game came out, I was like, who cares about this Prince of Persia thing? And then it came out, and no one cared, and it sold like crap. And by Christmas, I got it for $29 with Splinter Cell at Walmart, brand new, because they couldn't give it away.
That's the murderer's row, I call it, of fall 2003 Ubisoft games.
Yeah, and you had that, and then Beyond Good and Evil, which we're definitely going to get into at some point.
I got for $9.99 at Walmart in December after it came.
We can talk Beyond Good and Evil next.
Yeah, like
That's
Prince
a
of
game
Persia is
I mean, Prince of Persia, I enjoyed it when we played it for the show.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't give him. It's one of those, like, I want to do that whole trilogy, and I just struggle to get to the second one because there's other stuff I'd rather talk about in the show. But that's a me problem.
Well, and that's where you're at. And I'm like, I would rather just jump to Forgotten Sands or Prince of Persia 2007 than do Warrior Within or the next one after that. Those are,
you know,
2007, the cell shaded one.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia 2008
That one's
is
so good.
terrific. It is
08, I'm
good.
sorry.
Good
Yeah,
game.
thank you. Yeah,
So
08
great
and
game.
Oh, but to go on Beyond Good and Evil, I bought it for PS2 because everybody raved about it. I didn't really play it, and then it wasn't. And I actually tried to sell it, and then I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It was one of the few games I took to GameStop to go sell, and I was like, no, I just can't. And because I just don't like selling games. And then I played the HD version on 360. I beat it, and I did not like it when I played it.
I got
thought it
it
was kinda
months after because I remember people were raving about it, and it was totally under my radar. And then I think I saw an old episode of Reviews on the Run, which you guys might have known about Judgment Day if you were even.
Good old
yeah.
G4.
I guess.
Good old early G4.
I guess.
Oh,
It's problematic.
yeah. Before
what video game
X-Plane.
coverage wasn't?
Yeah, true. And then I rented it out, and I was like, wow, this is Zelda meets Diddy Kong Racing meets like Pokemon Snap in this like excellent like package that shouldn't work, and I absolutely adore it.
Because I liked it. You said Pokemon Snap, but I felt it was like that visor scanning of Metroid Prime, but more interesting to me for like taking all the pictures of the different animals and stuff in the world. I love that part of the game.
And we got that sequel coming out someday, right?
Journalist.
Right?
Well, I think it was blown out 15 years ago. There was that
was-
trailer that came out, I want to say 2008 at E3.
2007, I think.
And then
I remember
Michelle
seeing
Ancel, and
Paige
then
and Jade on the side of the road in a broken car.
right,
Just her
yeah.
meditating.
And even then, it felt like too long. It had only been 4 or 5 years. And then I want to say they re-revealed it again, but it was like you can help create the content, and that was 6 or 7 years ago at that
The
point.
game's never
And then
come out.
Yeah,
the
that would be
creator has
trailer.
resigned in disgrace from Ubisoft.
But that's
So,
the thing, because like that the first I don't understand what they're doing with that. Like I just make something small. What is everyone's problem with trying to make the biggest stupid games in the world? And then small games come out and sell, and they're like, "Oh my god, what a big surprise!"
Right. Like as you mentioned, Rayman Origins. It's a great little game. Like it scaled everything back with Rayman. It's just this really nice little 2D platformer, and it's fucking great.
But I remember watching a video about the creation of Beyond Good and Evil. I can't remember who did it. It might have been Gamers, and like he was like, "Oh, we're gonna have this game with multiple planets. You can travel here and there," and then it gets scaled down to this very personal story about these people on this small place that sets itself up for a sequel. And then they show the sequel trailer, which is a prequel with like a swearing monkey person. And I was like, oh, cool. This is exactly what I waited 2 decades for.
Right? Yeah. Man, because I love Jade. I love Jade, Paige, Triple H, the Doms, Alpha Sector, whatever it's called, all of them. I love Helios. That game is so beautiful and distinct. Then they released, like you said, that Side of the Road trailer. Then they released the second trailer where it's just what may or may not be Jade running through a marketplace. All of a sudden, it's a prequel, but we're still calling it 2. And like you said, the swearing monkey. And the more they show of it, the more I just go, yeah, it's another
that is dead
Ubisoft game, if it even ever comes out. Which sucks because they were so willing to make a new Beyond Good and Evil that they even gave out free copies of the new one with string cheese or whatever the promotion was a couple years ago. And there's nothing. And it drives me crazy because this is a huge game for me.
Right.
And this deserves a sequel or at least a trilogy. And instead we're just getting a prequel that means nothing, and it'll be another bloated Ubisoft game with towers.
It's not coming out. Don't worry. It's not coming out. Ubisoft will be bankrupt before that comes out.
Look,
we're not doing good, right?
Forever to come out, I believe.
I used to really like them, but they're not good.
Me too.
Beautiful Joe 3. I still think Beautiful Joe 3 will come out at some point. Hopeful.
And a game that
could happen.
Maybe one of us has played on this podcast, I'm hoping, because I want to hear a brief minute about it. Aquaman Battle for Atlantis comes out.
Oh my god.
I played it for 5 seconds. I own both versions.
Thing to say.
Only thing that can be said is that if going back to the G4 problematic stuff, X-Play made a bad awards show out of it called the Golden Mullet.
I remember this being on X-Play. Yes, 100%.
I
have a copy of it.
I think I played it on 360. It doesn't run that well. It introduced me to Ocean Master because I didn't know who Ocean Master was.
I mean, that's a good thing.
Played by Night Owl 2 in the movie.
I really like. I would play the shit out of an Aquaman game, but yeah, this wasn't. Who was asking for an Aquaman game in 2003? And this is someone who loves Aquaman.
Yeah. Aquaman was a punchline. They made fun of him on Entourage around this time. That's what.
Yeah, he was like badass in like Justice League, where he like chopped off his hand to save his kid. Like that was cool as hell. But
yeah, he's a cool character.
I know he's great, but like from a business perspective,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. PN03 came out in 2003 also.
Part of the Capcom 5/Capcom 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a copy of this game behind me. I paid like $5 for, but I know a guy who bought this game the day it came out for $50 and was pissed because this is high school. We don't have money, and here you are putting your, you get your game. He bought this game, beat it in like 2 hours, and was just angry.
Like from the creator of Resident Evil comes this thing.
It's not
like
very
breakdance laser fighting.
Hey, for $5 or $10, whatever I paid for it at the time, like it was great. I had my little part-time job where I made like $60 a week, and I spent a little bit of it on this game. Like it was fine. But if you bought the game for full price, I feel sorry for you. I just had to mention that it came out. I liked it. I kind of want to replay it someday just because. But yeah, we'll see.
I have it, I think.
But yeah,
this ties a lot to like Vanquish. I feel like Vanquish is probably a better version of this game.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, Vanquish. I've been wanting to play Vanquish forever, but haven't gotten around to it. That is not 2003.
No, that'd be 2008.
But also a Mikami game. Yeah. It's always a bit. Yeah. I remember PN03, and I'm looking now that PN stands for product number 3. Man, this was really, they didn't fucking put any time in the naming of this. They're like, this is the third product of the Capcom 5. Sure, why not? Because Nintendo famously made a deal with the
The
What was
Capcom
that?
5
Was it-
are Beautiful Joe, Resident Evil 4, Piano 3, and there are two others. that
Killer
were-
7.
And
Was Killer 7 one of
And
them?
Phoenix, something that never came out.
Derek Phoenix got canceled.
Killer 7's great, which has been on the show. Resident Evil 4 has been on the show. Beautiful Joe has been on the show. PN's the only one that hasn't been on the show.
Killer 7, I would love to play. It's on my Steam.
You should. You really should. I will always tell everyone they should play the game. We should talk about Beautiful Joe real quick. I don't have a lot to say, but you guys might have more. I played it back when it came out because I had a friend of mine that was a big GameCube stan. He just freaking loved Nintendo. He's like, and he was always trying to convince people to buy GameCube and not PS2 or Xbox. And he got me to buy Beautiful Joe, and I liked it, but I was never good enough. And then it's one of the only games for this show because I couldn't emulate at the time where I couldn't get through it because I wasn't good enough. But yeah, the game's hard as hell.
It is.
I play.
Yeah,
I only
and
know
the
it from the
sequel.
demo. Yeah, I only know it from the demo, and then I got really good at the demo level, and then the rest of the game got really overwhelming when I tried to play it the full game.
I got it on PS2 and I really struggled, and I think I ended up trading it in, but then I bought it again, and then I just watched a bunch of tutorial videos about how to do things, but when YouTube was around, and then I really got into it, and I got the whole series. I have a really cool, Beautiful Joe Tataku on my shelf that I really like.
Cool.
Lucky. Yeah,
What? No, go ahead, Phoebe. I was trailing.
I love this series. I watched the anime a lot. I can do the hand signal that he does. Mention to go baby. I played the first two games. I still love the first two games, but I haven't played the DS one. And that Ash clone that they did at Red Hot Rumble it's garbage. Don't
Red
play
Hot
it.
Rumble, yeah.
Do you have a
I-
DS?
I have the DS game.
I would love to get it for the Desume. Shh! Don't tell Nintendo.
No, I like. Do you have like a DS console presently?
No,
Oh, okay. Because
is Double Trouble that good?
well, no, I was about to say like I think I have a copy, and if you needed it, I would have sent it to you. But like,
I have enough stores around me currently that do sell DSs that I could probably get one.
I think
Yeah,
I
you
also
can
have some of the episodes on DVD that I bought at Canadian Tire up here.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and a game that I want to mention, I can't say a whole lot about because I've never played it, but it did come out in 2003, and I think about it every once in a while. Command and Conquer General, which is one of the last
My roommate
Command and
loved that
Conquer
game.
games. Not the last, there's a few others, but that came out in 03, which is probably super problematic now because one of the forces you fight is essentially like, it's all on the terrorist type thing, which is probably super fucking racist now.
Did that still have the FMV video? So they cut that because
I
General was
don't
like,
remember anything about General other than my friend bought it. He showed it to me because we were big fans of Command and Conquer 1 and we like Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2, but I've never I don't know if you can even buy Generals anymore. I don't know if it exists in any shape or form. It came out this year, so I had to mention it.
They've remastered all of the Red Alert early era in the first year, but those are all sprite based, and Generals was 3D based. So
Yeah,
all the figures were like polygonal, kind of like I guess Warcraft 3 whenever that came out.
So I don't know if that Warcraft 3 expansion comes out in 2003 also.
Frozen Throne?
Frozen Throne? Okay.
Yeah, but I can't speak to it. Never played it.
But yeah, that was my roommate played that a lot, but I cannot remember if it had like the goofy Tim Curry style FMVs or not.
I was going to
Only
ask
place
which
that
one Tim
capitalism
Curry was
can't
in.
get-
He's in Red Alert.
Buys.
That's the Russia one, right?
Yes. Red Alert's really good. Oh, a random game that came out in 2003, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb came out for Xbox, which is like a Tomb Raider Indiana Jones game that I actually played some point around 2010 that it's actually not bad.
I
And
bought
it's
it for my
like, that's the good
roommate for
one, right?
$1.99.
From what I remember. I liked it when I played it. I've been wanting to go back and replay it again, but I remember thinking this is actually really damn cool.
Yeah, I bought it for my roommate for $1.99 at EB Games one day, and I went to try it a few years ago after they announced that Indiana Jones game that they've been oddly quiet about. The manual is really cool. I miss good manuals because it's like his journal is like how it's laid out. So cool.
That's cool. Remember when manuals were a thing?
They still make them on and off. They just have to add stuff like exclusive interviews to make sure you buy it now since the internet exists.
No,
Yeah,
you have to spend $100 and limited run will give you one in a year and a half.
Oh, Phoebe, do you have any games you want to shout out? We haven't talked about
Ape
yet?
Escape 2 came out this year.
Okay.
Ape Escape, an IP that Sony will never give any more love to.
Hey, there's iToy
Other
games.
stuff.
It took them that long to make Ape Escape 2?
Yeah.
That was a PS1 DualShock game.
The first one, yeah.
Yep. Then Ape
Wow,
Escape
I didn't
2,
realize-
and then Ape Escape 3. Million
Three's
Monkeys
great.
never came out in America, as far as I'm aware, and then the series just died.
Oh,
But Ape
wow.
Escape 2 is really cute. You're playing as a new character who has a little baby monkey that's his best friend, and the baby monkey gets kidnapped, and it's just a really cute, fun game. They're all fun games.
Which one's on PS4? Is that 2 or 3?
The store?
Yeah, because I think I bought one of them.
1 and 2 are both on the digital store. 3 hasn't come out digitally, which is weird, because I think 2 is a Ubisoft game, and 3
No,
is a
'cause,
Sony game.
Like
but
PS4 had a bunch of PS2 games you could buy, and I think I
Right.
bought one of them.
I want to say Ape Escape 3 has like Metal Gear Solid modes,
it
as
does.
well.
It does.
but that's not this year. But
I was gonna say, if we're
Yeah.
gonna talk about Ape Escape 3 real quick, that game has a weird difficulty thing going on because there is no difficulty setting, and both characters play pretty much exactly the same. But the female character is technically easy mode because there are a few monkeys that enjoy her because she's a pop idol, so they'll completely stand still and let you catch them.
that's so weird.
But I think the boss fight against Pink Monkey is harder because she's also trying to be a pop idol, so she's your rival. It's so weird.
So apparently Ape Escape 2, you can buy it on PlayStation 4, and I'm hearing that it's a glitchy mess on PlayStation 5. I don't know how it plays on PlayStation 4.
Oh no. God, I hope
And
not. 'Cause
Episode
I'm going through
108,
one again.
if you want to hear us talk about Ape Escape 3.
I was gonna say, I think one of you brought up earlier that Okogi or whatever it was called was a From
Okogi.
Software game.
Oh, I forgot
Right.
it was from software, but yeah.
So this was right after 2003, January 2004. Hey, FromSoft and Sony, if you're listening to this, can you release Echo Knight on the PlayStation Store digitally, please?
They're not.
No, but Sony really
about that
doesn't release anything.
They won't release anything unless you really love Gabe Crazy Legs Logan from the Siphon Filter series.
It's so weird. I don't know if I brought this up on another podcast or what, but man, oh man, Sony really doesn't like to release anything of their own IPs every once in a while. They own Twisted Metal, and the only one that's on the digital store is Twisted Metal Black. That makes no sense.
Sony only likes putting out games that make them smell their own farts.
Put out
they
Twisted
own-
Metal 2, it's the best one.
They only care about their God of Wars, their Last of Us, their Upon the Oars. They don't, like, I was listening to Mike's episode about God of War last week, and they're like, why don't they re-release it? Like, Sony is ashamed of those games now.
Well, hey, 2003 game, Sony exclusive, I'm pretty sure. Fatal Frame 2. Why don't you put that on the store? Actually, I have no idea if it's on the store or not.
Which is, all of these were on PlayStation 3. Like, I have a bunch of Fatal Frame games on PlayStation 3. Like, the PlayStation 3 was such a great Sony machine, and we'll never see that again. We'll see, like, a remake of, like, Spider-Man again and Horizon again before we'll see, like, Sly Cooper come back.
Yeah, why are the stores completely different? Why does PS3 get its own weird special digital store where you can get Parasite Eve and all this other stuff?
Because the PlayStation 3 is the Sega Saturn of Sony's system.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, that's the.
And that it's secretly great, but it has terrible architecture that's so hard to deal with that they don't want to put in the effort to deal with it.
Yeah. Because even their like whatever their Game Pass equivalent, like you can download all games except for PS3, and then they have like weird server farms for the PS3 to like play like Metal Gear Solid 4 because it's less effort than trying to figure out how to get Metal Gear Solid 4 off of the PS3.
Like the
My
PlayStation
understanding.
3, it's like you can get like the Mega Man Legends trilogy and the Crash trilogy and the Spyro trilogy and Tomba 1 and 2 and Parasite Eve 1 and 2 and Dino Crisis 1 and 2.
Did you say Tomba?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the pink-haired caveman
Yep.
kid? I love that game.
Yeah.
All of these are on PlayStation 3, and then they put out this service like, we're going to re-release a bunch of classic games. here's Intelligent Cube and Siphon Filter 1, 2, and 3. Like, thanks, Sony.
Frickin' Siphon
Here's
Filter.
Fear Effect.
That's a terrible game. That it's on this podcast, unfortunately. I've covered it.
Give us $200 a year, please.
I was sorry, too. I was very sorry. I hated that game. But speaking of a game I didn't hate that came out in 2003, GTA Vice City comes out in 2003.
It was 2002.
That's an 02 game.
Oh, fuck. It showed up in my 2003 list.
Nope. Maybe
it came out in Windows in 2003.
Maybe on Xbox.
On Xbox, maybe.
Okay, then I will leave it at that. But, another game that did come out in 2003, so I don't, trip over myself. Golden Sun: The Lost Age, which is a great RPG.
I want to play that and the original so
You need to
bad.
play both, but I would... I think you do. I really love both of them. I did them on this podcast.
But don't play the third one, right?
Lost Age is an amazing completion to that first game. Amazing completion. Both of them together are amazing games. But I played on my phone. That's the right way to play it because then it's always in your pocket. You can just pull it up and just do it.
Would you say to play the third game as well, or just the only?
I have played the
first
third
two?
one. I can't speak to it.
I hear it's bad. I hear people are pushing like it needs to be demade to be more like the GBA games. Dark Dawn, I think.
Yeah,
Or you could just keep it as duology. Same thing with the Lunar franchise. What's up with them just putting all these older or unloved games or these series onto the DS and giving them a weird third or extra addition to the series?
Yeah, because like
wasn't
Lufia
needed.
had like a weird thing, didn't it?
Yeah,
Like an action
I think
RPG
so.
for Lufia. That
The
was weird.
DS install base was huge. And like the DS is such a fascinating time for games because the install base was so big that like people who were behind big studios wanted to make DS games. Like you have Tiranova Itagaki. Name doesn't mean much now, but he's like, I want to do Ninja Gaiden on DS, and it's terrific. And then you have like
Really?
the doctors from BioWare who like, we want to do a Sonic RPG on this thing.
which is not terrific.
I like that game.
I
I'll
tried.
just leave it at that.
I
But it's
really
just like
tried, but I
These
can't do the
big
ability.
name studios who wanted to do this, like everybody wanted to be on that system.
What a time. And then it was very similar to like the PS1, so it was like easy to develop 3D for. Oh man, that's such a good thing. That's such a good system for RPGs, DS. But that's not here today. We're not talking about DS. About other mediocre
Vincent,
RPGs.
Why don't you
Yes.
pick a game?
Oh, dude, I got so much. We haven't even hit my big hitters yet. We're gonna talk about the Game Boy Advance SP came out in 2003, which is Nintendo's first lit Game Boy in America, because the Game Boy Light technically came out in Japan only. But it was a revelation. It was the Game Boy Advance, which was notoriously dark. People like voided their warranties with like afterburner kits and bullshit. Couldn't see Circle of the Moon, as we mentioned. But it was a lit Game Boy that was like a little clamshell. It was real tiny. It fits in my any pocket. It's the best system ever. It was so cool. And it had a lithium battery, so I never had to ever buy double A's or triple A's for my Game Boys ever again.
Okay.
They did sacrifice the headphone port for it, which is stupid. but the closed shut, and I could play lights, and I was a theater kid, so I'd just be like backstage, like, because I was not a very good actor, so I never had like a big role, just playing Game Boy Advance games in the dark backstage. And it was great. That's the highlight of my 03. And when we're talking about like great Game Boy Advance games here, like it's because that GBA SP is great. And I really love it, and I'm happy it exists. And it came out the same day as Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, which is when I actually jumped off the Pokemon ship for like a decade. For some reason, I don't like Gen 3 of Pokemon. I know a lot of people do. But that came out also in 03. GBA SP and Pokemon.
And Superstar Saga.
Superstar Saga, that game. Okay, that's the game. Oh my gosh,
That also came out at this time.
yeah, that was like a
amazing
November
RPG.
03 game. So good. It's the legacy of like Super Mario RPG, which was like baby's first RPG for me. But man, I love Super Mario RPG.
Except for the end, I've heard it's hard as hell.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Oh,
I love
Superstar?
Super Mario RPG.
Well, not
but
Mario RPG. Mario Luigi Superstar Saga. I heard the end. Is
Yeah,
very
the ending
great.
of that game can be a little hard. The Fawful fight is...
Yeah,
ooh.
Trey from
don't
the Nintendo Main podcast was talking about it recently. I gotta give him a shout out, and that's
So
I have never played it though. More
It's
than
so.
like,
I mean, it's. I think that the later Mario and Luigi's like refine it a bit because I played the 3DS remake and there's like some moves that are like a little extraneous and like a little bit of bullshit. But at the time, it was like a really, really funny RPG. It was one of those like active RPGs, like the Super Mario RPGs are, where you have to like push A to like time right. The B and A buttons controlled Mario and Luigi separately. Luigi was really, really funny in it. It was very amusing. The Koopa Kids came back in it as separate bosses. The Koopa Kids hadn't been seen since like Mario World, which was like what, 91, 92? So they hadn't been seen in 12 years. The amount of like Nintendo fan service for it, I was just like over the moon for Mario and Luigi 1. I loved that movie or that game so much. It was so great.
Good old Princess Luigi and Princess Peach's outfit, and the fact that we had EGAD as a weird side character, confirming that the Luigi's Mansion is in some way canon. He just runs a coffee shop.
What a game. It was so good. I'm going to replay that one. I really liked Paper Jam. That one was a really good one where they merged it with the Paper Mario series.
That's what I heard. We did Paper Mario not so long ago, people brought it up.
It's a little, as these Mario and Luigi games are, they outstay their welcome, but at the time they are a lot of fun, and they're fun to dip back into. But I really liked Mario and Luigi 1. That was one of my favorite games of 03, but not my favorite game. We'll get to that.
Oh, and now you can play it on the Switch.
The last game that came out,
yeah.
2003 is Sonic Heroes. I have to mention that.
Yes.
I had this in 2004. I think I played it. Wouldn't have been. Yeah, I've never beat it, but I remember really liking it. Where you had the parties of 3 people each. I know.
I said that Nintendo never released a demo disc. That's wrong, because I did play the Sonic Heroes demo because it was on Mario Kart Double Dash as the second disc packed into Mario Kart Double Dash was a Sonic Heroes demo.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Double Dash came out 2003 also.
Yes, it did.
God. That's like the last time I cared about Mario Kart.
Dude, I threw my Wavebird against a wall because it was the first time I ever actually understood Mario Kart's rubber banding. I was like, it was at that thing, where you just get like 3 shells like in quick succession and you lose the cup. And then I was like, I hate Mario Kart and I will never like this series again. And I will just go play Diddy Kong Racing. And
he doesn't know about the 3 shells.
Actually got an explanation, and it's dumber than you think.
It did.
I always think about Sonic Heroes too. That's another one of those random games where I never finished it because you have to you have to beat all the levels with each of the 4 teams, and it was just too much. I think it's 4 teams or something.
It's 4 teams, and they're each a different mode. Amy's easy, Sonic is the normal difficulty, Team Dark is hard, and Team Chaos is a weird puzzle mode with collectibles and other stuff.
So it's still...
Are you telling me that a Sonic game has some bullshit you got to put up with?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But I really want to do it. Like I did Shadow the Hedgehog on this podcast. That game is garbage.
This is who you are.
But garbage game. But I keep thinking about these games, and I'm like, man, I want to play Sonic Heroes one day. And the fact that it's 2003, I had to mention it. Like one day.
So because they never came out with a Sonic Adventure 3. This was the third 3D Sonic game.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Sonic Adventure.
But I remember like them all being like hand locked. Like I had 3 bros at the same time. It was like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, like all running together at the same time, like wide.
Yes.
Is that?
And
accurate?
You can switch, and they each do different things or something. I don't remember
Sonic
a whole lot about it.
Tails was flight, and Knuckles was power, and I think everyone had that kind of dynamic.
Yeah,
it's not a game.
Did it still have the same bullshit, Phoebe? You're saying like with the teams where. Because like I hated like the Knuckles levels of Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh no, nothing like that.
No, the big problem with Sonic Heroes is that some of those levels go on too long. Because man, if you didn't like the combat when you're playing Werewolf Sonic in Sonic Unleashed, you're definitely not going to like Sonic Heroes. Because every single enemy, even the little grunt robots, has a health bar that's at least 3 pips long.
Really?
So you have to homing attack it 3 times, or switch to Knuckles and throw Sonic and Tails at them as projectiles a few times.
Which takes away from fast.
Yeah, and also the lock-on on that game is atrocious.
I can believe that.
At the very least, there are super moves, so you can fill a bar with either collectibles, getting rings, or beating enough enemies, and this bar fills up, and you can... I think on the GameCube version, it's the Z button, and it will just do a little cutscene. It's the same cutscene every time, and it's a complete screen wipe.
I have this game, and I'm always like, one day I gotta get around to it, but...
Yeah. It is also Sonic Adventure 3. I don't care what people say. It is Sonic Adventure 3. It ties both games up into its plot. It has a finale that actually brings back Froggy and Chaos, and all these little threads actually come together at the end of it.
That's good. One day. I did Sonic Adventure 2 on this show because I fucking love Sonic Adventure 2 so much.
It's such a good game.
It really is. But another game that we should talk about some good games, and this one I've been kind of saving. Silent Hill 3, at least the PC version, came out in 2003. I don't know if the PS2 version, I'm looking right now. Yeah, PS2 version 2003 too. Okay. So
that one connects back to the original Silent Hill 1, right? Because Silent Hill 2 is its own story.
Silent Hill 3 is because you play as the girl from 1, but now grown up.
Okay.
Yeah, Cheryl, who's now Heather.
3 is really, really good. And you don't play as a bullshit character that is an asshole that you hate. So it's great.
Are you talking about Harry or are you talking about James?
James. I don't like James.
Really?
You're not supposed to. That's the point.
I know, but when I replayed 2 for this podcast and I knew everything about James, I was having a really hard time playing the game. I don't know. But I really like 3. I think 3 was a great game, and it was 2003, so I had to mention it.
There.
So yeah. And anything else you guys have about Silent Hill 3?
No, I don't.
I've only played the first one.
Silent Hill 3, it was at that time. It wasn't until like 2006 or 2007 where I finally got Silent Hill. I always kept trying them, but I would always lose the narrative. Like, I didn't get it. And then I rented 3, and I tried it, and I got stuck, and I didn't have, I don't know, I probably had the internet then. Yes, because I was getting it sent back and forth between university. And I didn't care. And a few years later, I picked it up. I watched Benjamin Rivers stream it a while ago, and it kind of drags at the beginning from what I remember. Like, it goes on very long. It's in really boring environments. But I remember enjoying it. I just haven't played it in a while to really talk about it intelligently. I can talk about intelligently is the licensed games that broke me.
What's that?
Well, it's a combination of X2 Wolverine's Revenge, Evil Dead, Fistful of Boomstick, and Enter the Matrix. And we'll throw in Hulk there for some good measure. Although Hulk has some merit because Hulk, it has a great style, and it's kind of the blueprint for where they would take Ultimate Destruction.
That's the great one, right?
Yes, that's the open world one. And this is kind of like the blueprint. It's the same people. Radical Entertainment, rest in peace. X2 Wolverine's Revenge, I remember being really excited for it because I had an X2 countdown calendar app on my computer, which would slow it down every morning until I turned it off. I was so excited to see X-Men 2. And then I got the X-Men video game where you play as Wolverine, as voiced by Mark Hamill. And it's a stealth game that is incredibly hard and punishing. And no, this wasn't the one I broke the controller off. This was me playing Spider-Man the movie game previously, but it was around that same time, right? And then the Evil Dead game. I was a sucker for like the Evil Dead games where you play as like Bruce Campbell and he's doing the voice, he's cracking wise, but it's just this very boring, tedious budget game. And then, of course, the granddaddy of all licensed games from that era, Enter the Matrix, where everyone was on the Matrix hype train. Like, you have to buy this game with a shiny cover and the code, and you don't understand the whole plot of the movie. You have to play the game and buy the Animatrix and probably drink a soft drink somewhere. Very ambitious game, but very, very flawed.
I think Edge, had had like a great post-mortem on that game where like the Wachowskis were supposed to be like the villain of the game. Like, it was supposed to get like super meta. But yeah, like it felt like Jada Pinkett Smith's character, which like I never really glommed onto for the Matrix sequels, and she was also in the fourth Matrix.
Yep,
I'm happy to see you, but like I want to play as Neo. Like, so like,
another game that comes out a couple years later, you get Path of Neo, but I never played that.
That actually
I've heard good things about it.
As the final villain, technically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they show up as two pixelated Atari-style stickmen, and they're just
funny.
Hey, so we know that the final boss against Smith
Agent
would be
Smith
super boring, so we're gonna up this up a little bit. Yeah, and they make a kaiju out of him.
Amazing.
Weird.
Amazing.
That's also the game that has the longest combo in video game history. It's the combo called The One, and it's about 40 button presses.
Damn.
Oh, that-
I
they
am
should flip
curious
that
about
around.
that
It should be one button that you push, like
Right?
One Punch Man or something.
I do have one other game that I have to mention quickly. I never beat it, so I don't have a whole lot to say. But Final Fantasy X-2 came out in 2003.
My roommate also liked that game. Yes, he
It's a
did.
good game. I gave it a lot of shit in 2003 because younger Mike, high school Mike, was too cool for an all-girl game, and 35-year-old Mike, like, yeah, sign me up. But I really want to go back to it because I feel like I know it's a really good game underneath everything, and I think I would accept the more like Charlie's Angels theme a lot better.
My memory is that all of the Final Fantasy sequels, like 10-2 and 13-2 and Lightning Returns, like cut a lot of the bullshit from their original game. It turned out pretty good. Like
13
But I haven't played
adds
any.
layers, or like 10-2 adds layers upon layers upon
really.
I was
layers.
gonna say
of bullshit.
13-2 is good. Lightning
Yes,
Returns
it
is a fucking atrocious monstrosity.
I've never played it yet.
Don't
I never
do it.
played Final Fantasy X until this year.
Oh,
I played during the summer because I don't like RPGs. I would rather watch people play them. Final Fantasy, we never got until I never played any ones on Super Nintendo. My brother got Final Fantasy VII. I watched him play that. He got Final Fantasy VIII. I watched him play that. He went to university in Final Fantasy IX, so I had to do that on my own, which I did. And then 10, I played that year, and I really, really loved it. And I was really excited to play 10 too, but I was in university, and it's not a game that you can play casually. Like, you have to do so much stuff.
Yes.
Like, I have a coworker who's playing it now, and she was like, oh my god, I spent hours just doing this dungeon for like days to get like a fraction of a percent towards the best ending.
uh-huh. But it's got the
Are there
song.
multiple
What can I do for
endings
you?
in 10-2?
I'm sorry, I was singing. What?
Was Mike gonna do Real Emotion?
I can. What can I
There
do
we
for you?
go.
What can I do for you? That's all I remember of that song.
Yeah, does 10-2 have multiple endings?
Yes.
Oh god.
And like, you have to do certain things at certain times, and if you don't, then you're locked out of them. Like, there's one point early in the game where you have to make monkey couples.
What?
Like, you have to pair up monkey couples
I need
to
play
make
this
them
game.
fall in love. And if you
It's
don't do that,
good.
then you lose.
It
so
doesn't
much of
matter now because there's a novel that takes place after 10-2 that completely undoes everything again.
That's fine. Whatever. It's still a great game.
Like
It's still got a
Tennis
very,
Dice, second
very good
time.
battle system, by the way.
Third time.
Yeah, the dress sphere system is really cool. It has a really deep system that it's just something. And I remember once I got out of school for that summer, I think my mom bought me the strategy guide, and then I tried to do it, and I was like, I can't do this. This is too much. And I was like at home in like the Dursleys period of university where I'm just like living in the closet playing games. And even then, I was like, this is too much. I can't do this. Like, I like Final Fantasy X because it was a nice, breezy, straight line, and I loved all the characters, and I loved all the story. And I was like, I don't have the patience to max out the monkey love in this game.
10's also great.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay. Vincent, do you have a game you want to mention?
Oh yes, I have a dozen games I want to mention, but we'll do a lightning round here of Game Boy Advance games that I find fascinating, but for quick reasons. Mega Man and Bass, Mega Man and
yeah.
Bass.
Yeah,
Rockman
that was this
Fort.
year.
Yeah, the GBA port that like just cut the resolution and made a lot of blind jumps and kind of fucked with you. A Super Famicom only game never came to America, but would have been, I guess, after Mega Man 7.
It takes place
It
after
was
7.
after 8.
Is it after 8?
Yeah,
think
because
it's
some of the
that.
bosses from 8 are Astroman's in it. And
And
I think
Tangus.
it's someone else.
So I
And
probably
take
should have
a
put it
man.
on the show before we do 9, but that's not happening. So, oh well.
Yeah, Rockman and Forte. But speaking of Astro Man, Astro Boy is
Was it this year?
Oh, Mega Factor?
yeah, I believe so. Treasure game.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, like Game Boy Advance GBASP was really, really good. And that was just like a really great, like one of the last great treasure games. So if you liked Guardian Heroes or any of those kind of things, like Omega Factor. Oh, North America, 2004, Japan, 03. I fucked up. Okay. Well, that's on me.
If it's
That's on
03 for
me.
something, that's fine.
Okay. Well, we got that. And then a weird Game Boy Advance game I loved. Crazy Taxi Catch a Ride. They put all of Crazy Taxi 1 into the Game Boy Advance at like 15 frames a second, but they made it work in 3D. No Offspring songs. It's very
Oh no!
It's an Uncle Derek game.
No.
Again, music licensing is always so just ugh.
But I don't know how that would have gone out of the GTA.
No, it probably wouldn't have worked, but still, like, I mean, that's some of those games like Tony Hawk. If you don't have the music, it's not going to be Tony Hawk.
So,
You need that music to hit that nostalgic, like, random comment. But if I go in New Dalhi in Xenogears or whatever the hell the name of that desert town is, and I don't hear, I'm not going to be happy. Someone else got that reference somewhere out there.
But I love Crazy Taxi in all its forms. I have it on PSP. I have it on any system. I play it like every year, and I love it. And then two big series that started on GBA in 2003. WarioWare came out for the first time in 2003 on the Game Boy Advance. We all know about WarioWare. And Fire Emblem, which I was hot off the heels of Intelligent Systems, Advance Wars 1 and 2. And then they're like, here's their other series that's very, very similar. And I'm like, hell yeah, sign me up, Fire Emblem. And then I realized, oh, there's permadeath here. And I can't just send all my guys to death. And even then I love Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics to an extent. So I was kind of on board, but Fire Emblem GBA starts here. So this was the first American one. It didn't even have Ike and Marth because that was the GBA game before that. That was Japan only. So you wouldn't have any carryover characters from Smash Brothers.
Which is really weird.
It's really weird because I think Fire Emblem 7 is the one with Ike and Marth. Or maybe we got Fire Emblem 7. I don't know. But
don't know the series well enough
Fire Emblem came to the US because of Smash Bros. Melee. On that, people are like, who are these characters? And that was kind of like a Trojan horse. But then we didn't have those characters in our Fire Emblem games for a while, if ever. So it's kind of weird. But if you like Advance Wars 1 and 2, as I did at the time, I was all in on Fire Emblem.
If we don't get Marth, I think, to the Shadow Dragon game, which is DS or 3DS?
I don't know Fire Emblem well enough. I feel like its characters just named Marth. Also, I don't know if it's
only beat the first GBA one, and that's the only one I ever played.
Okay,
I can't speak to them, unfortunately. I wish I could. I know they're good.
I want to say the 3DS one, Awakening, had a cute girl Marth. It was just a cute girl with purple hair. So I don't remember exactly. Write in to Games My Mom Found. Actually, join the Patreon, Games My Mom Found, and tell us how.
Join the Discord too, but
tell us how wrong we are.
Please do.
There's so many different ways to engage with us to tell us how we're wrong. Find them all.
There's a link in the show notes. Blair, do you have some games you want to mention that we haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah, I'll do a quick. I never played this until a year after, but actually, I kind of brought it up earlier. I was impressed by how Naughty Dog was willing to totally do a 180 on the Jak franchise. I actually went back and played Jak 1 this year, and I loved it. And then I played Jak 2 eventually and hate it because it's a bad game. I don't care what anyone says. It's
Jak 2 is all 3.
Did you do an episode on Jak 2?
No, I haven't touched any of the Jaks on purpose.
Oh, Jak 1 is great. Jak 2 is hot trash.
I'm glad. I loved Jak and Daxter 1. I was so happy with that game. And then
Me
I just
too,
looked
but
at Jak 2 and I was like,
at that time of my life, I was like, oh, Jak 1 is like a baby game. And then I remember I bought it and my brother came home and I was like, I can't let him see me enjoying this game, and would turn it off when he entered a room. And then I was in love with it. Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, which is another one I never played because I didn't like Ratchet 1 because he was a bit of a jerk and the controls sucked. But that's a great one. I guess there's probably going to be a future Games My Mom Found on this. Mega Man X7, which I remember seeing in EGM and being so excited because it was cel-shaded Mega Man in 3D, and that it was one of the worst games ever.
I am really excited to play X7. I don't know why. I'm
excited to hear Flame Hyanard say burn to the ground.
This is their favorite Mega Man game.
I'm glad you got rid of them.
This is one of those things where you like this game? Trash, get out of here.
It's you just see a cut and all their stuff goes flying out the window. And their Axel plushie, the Poochie of the Mega Man universe.
What happened here?
This game really...
I remember X-Play hating it.
In X7? So essentially it's a Mega Man game where Mega Man's an unlockable character because he gives up fighting, and then they introduce Poochie, Axel. And it's 2D, and then it switches to 3D, but you can't see anything. Everyone has stupid voice clips. X is a pacifist, so every time he fires his charge shot, he screams, "Stop it," because he doesn't want to be fighting.
What is he fighting for?
The controls are bad. The jumping is terrible. There's a boss called Tornado Tunyon, who is a dancing onion with a European accent. There's a boss called Flame Hyanard who runs around saying, burn, 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 burn to the ground, burn to the ground. And my friend walked in, watched me play this, and he's like, how can you even do this? But I just love Mega Man that much.
Very least command mission makes Poochie good.
Yeah. And actually, it made me think of another game that came out around this time that I'm glad I remembered. Castlevania Lament of Innocence.
Yes, I'm glad
Oh,
someone
the
brought that
PS2
up.
one.
Because it's not great. It's like Gothic Mario 64, where instead of designing a castle, you just go into different parts, and every area there's a lot of cut and paste environments, but the combat's really fun. It has an interesting hook where the more you use certain moves, you gain new moves based on what you're doing. So if you don't use a lot of heavy attacks, you might lock yourself off from other things. And it's really hard to find all the bonuses, but the story's really cool. And I was really wanted them to kind of follow up on that. And then the follow up to that was even worse. Curse of Darkness, which is just great soundtrack, but it's so boring.
Okay, so this is the one that explains where Dracula comes from.
Yes, this is the first game still in the chronological order.
Yeah, this is from the EGA timeline, not the Lords of Shadow of the Colossus timeline that they created whenever that game came out.
That's a good game too, but yeah,
that's I was gonna say. So linking this back to Arya, Arya's last boss is these weird 3 spheres that are the heart of the castle that keeps bringing Dracula back. And in this game, the PS2 one, there are 2 stones. There's the one that allows you to control death, and there's the alchemy stone or whatever the hell that actually turns him into Dracula. So I always assumed that the 3 stones in Arya, at least 2 of them were the death controlling stone and the vampirism.
You're giving
one.
it too much credit here.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Because what the hell's the 3rd stone?
It's a lot of effort in a game whose last boss is a vampire named Walter. And another summer game that no one will probably bring up, and maybe it will be on another future games my mom found, Resident Evil Dead Aim.
It's actually there is an episode about Dead Aim on this show.
Oh, there already is? Okay.
Yes, I covered it.
I'm surprised you did that one before Survivor. But that was an interesting one where you actually got to use the gun con to play it and aim. And it was kind of Resident Evil 4 before Resident Evil 4, but terrible.
I like Dead Aim.
That's the one that's on the boat?
Yes.
Okay, so the one that actually has the TG virus that turns the guy into a girl.
It's one of many Resident Evil games set on a boat. This is actually the second one.
Revolutions or Revelations.
There was Resident Evil Gaiden, and then Resident Evil. And then there was this one, and then there was Resident Evil Revelations. I'm trying to think if there's another one. I feel like there's another one on a boat somewhere.
No, I really like Dead Aim. I thought it was really fun. It's 73, episode 73, I think, or somewhere close to that. You can search it on Podbean for those that are curious when you hear it. So
yeah, Resident Evil also. Speaking of that, Resident Evils 2, 3, and Code Veronica X also came out on the GameCube in 2003. So
those are some of the good versions.
Ticket collector's items.
Yes. Resident Evil 2.
I definitely had Code Veronica.
That's the one that's the most expensive, I think.
Fuck
or maybe
me. I gave it to a friend. Fuck. Okay, well, here we go. Easy come, easy go. I gave away a $700 Ninja 5.0. We're fine.
It's not like Code Veronica isn't playable on Xbox Series X nowadays anyways.
But like that, but so 03 was now the year that like I guess now every single Resident Evil like mainline game is now playable on the GameCube. They didn't get like remakes. They just like were basically ported over as is.
But for Resident Evil 2, like there is a mod. I played it the GameCube version, but on PC. Somebody modded the crap out of that game where it actually looks like high definition. You can Google it. It's what I play. It's really good.
It's all Dreamcast code, if I'm not mistaken. I think they just took the Dreamcast ports.
They did something to make it clean. I really liked it. I really like what I played. I don't remember.
I mean, Resident Evil 2 was just terrific. I just can't imagine playing the tank controls and a dinky little GameCube D-pad. That sounds like a nightmare.
Well, I didn't play it on that, but yes. That does sound like a nightmare.
I mean, we got the definitive good version of RE1 on the GameCube, so.
That's a great game. Game I played to show my first girlfriend. I when she came over one time and I was very young, I'm like, here, look at this game. Look at this. You see a zombie in a bathtub. Why I chose to show that.
I'm still shocked about Double Dash. Like that's I mean, Double Dash was like the Mario Kart that I had in university, and I totally slipped my mind that it was in 2003.
Mm-hmm. Which seems really late for the GameCube. I don't know if the GameCube had dropped. I think
That
it's
was
at
only
least
a year
100.
or two, though. It was only
because it came out November 01, so it's a 2-year-old system at this point.
the Wii was no different because like Mario Kart Wii was 2008.
Right, I guess that's true.
Really?
Phoebe, do you have some games we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, lightning round, as everybody keeps saying. Crash
yeah.
Bandicoot 2 on the Game Boy Advance, not as good as the first one, but it is a pretty decent game. The Ikaruga port for the GameCube, fantastic bullet hell game. It is super hard, though. Time Crisis 3 on the PS2, still one of the best light gun games in arcade history. And two that I'm surprised nobody has brought up yet, Simpsons Hit and Run and Kirby Air Ride.
I've never played either of them.
I'm not a big Kirby guy. It just bores
Kirby
me.
Air Ride is fantastic. You should only play the city trial mode, though.
That game famously, I think you don't hold the A button for gas; it just goes.
It
And I
just
remember,
goes.
And
you
reviews
can
dinged
hold
it, but I'm
for
like, I'm
boosting.
holding A in Mario and never pressing the brake button. So like, it doesn't really matter in Mario Kart. So like, why were people like dinging it for like you just go?
Stupid.
But it's supposed to be pretty good. I remember that one. And then Hit and Run is the GTA Simpsons game, right?
I have no affinity for Simpsons. I've never really watched any of that show. I really want to play this game now for the podcast someday, just because
It's a very strong game.
They got the
Right.
writers to do it. All the voices are there, probably minus Harry Shearer, if I know how he is. But yeah, I remember that one. That actually a layout for Springfield. It came off the heels of Simpsons Road Rash, which is the Crazy Taxi knockoff, which I really enjoyed. Road Rash is the Road Rage, maybe. Is the Crazy Taxi knockoff, and then this one's the GTA knockoff. And I remember my friends playing it and having a delightful time. I'm not a big Simpsons fan, but if I wanted to play that or GTA 3, I'd probably play Hit and Run if I had to play one of them.
Good choice.
Probably, right?
Yeah. Kirby Air Ride, like I said, do city trial mode because it's the best version. You can go in the settings and determine how long you want to be in there. And the whole point is you and at least or at most 3 other players can just roam around this little city, collecting power-ups for your vehicle, trying to kill each other to steal their power-ups, get your speed up, your attack up, et cetera, et cetera. And at the very end of the timer, a random event is chosen. It could be a race, it could be a battle royale, but the vehicle that you currently have with all of its stat boosts, that's what you're going into the event with.
And that is still like the only game that's got like Kirby like fully like 3D air, like roaming in 3D. If you kind of count Forgotten Kingdom is not just like a top-down game, the new one.
Or any of those weird 3DS ones, which don't count.
Well, those
either,
were all
but
side scrollers.
There were some isometric ones and stuff in there.
Okay. I thought
But yeah, they should definitely make a new Air Ride game.
Yeah, they should. That would be fun. I mean, they make so many Kirby knockoffs. They really should just dip back into that. Yeah. Like there's that like one that's like Delicious Course that's like Fall Guys Kirby that my son really loves. So yeah, Air Ride. I should get him Air Ride. He'd probably love it. That's a good idea.
Yeah. It's 4 players. You could play it with them.
Right. And speaking of Nintendo Racers of 03, F-Zero GX, which is technically made by Sega.
Cannot speak.
Oh, that game
really?
is so hard.
It's fucking F-Zero X is like one of my favorite games of all time. I love it. I love how clean it is. It just moves fast. 30 racers on the screen, 60 frames a second on Nintendo 64. It's great. I was all like hyped up for F-Zero GX. My website, I went and re-reviewed like every single F-Zero game. I had an F-Zero week.
Oh, you
for
mean
my
the 2 other
website.
games?
Yeah. No, hey, we had
There
were
there
3
a Game Boy
games at that
Advance one?
point. There's a Game Boy.
Yes.
Maximum Velocity was out at that point. GP Legend and the Japan only one were not out at this point. So there were 3. It was a short week. It was.
It's not a big series. I have a copy of this, but I've never played it.
It's made by Sega, so it feels more like a Sega racer. I think it's made by the Yakuza team, which really shows in the cutscenes, which are like not real time, and they are just like stuck to that resolution, which I think is one of the reasons it's hard to port, because they can't. I don't think they can redo the videos that aren't in 480p. But
there was a rumor
I wish
that,
it would get
Next
ported.
Level is doing
Just
it.
because.
I saw that rumor recently. Hopefully that comes to fruition. But it was now that I'm old, it's too busy of a racetrack. Like there's too many like lights and shit on the actual like racetrack as you're passing through that makes it very hard for me to focus when I'm going 1,000 kilometers an hour.
That's
I
what
remember
the save states are for.
Die.
When you fuck up,
A friend of mine bought this, and there's like a story mode, and he
Yes.
did mission 1, and then mission 2, and then mission 3 is mission 2. Only there's a shit ton of rocks being thrown at you, and we couldn't
Uh-huh.
beat it.
That's exact. I may
That
have
sounds
gotten to
miserable.
mission 3, but I've never gotten past that. There's no
Only-
difficulty settings. It requires you to be perfect, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful though. It is a beautiful game, but it is very difficult, and my oldness can't handle the amount of visual stimulation anymore. I can't do it.
Somebody did it at Games Done Quick a couple of years ago, and
Oh,
I bet that's really
man,
fun.
the amount of times that they died
Oh wow!
being a professional speedrunner in that game, I was just like, how the hell are you supposed to play this game? It's so
I just found out what I'm
Perfect
watching soon now because I love games done quick.
hell yeah.
So I'm adding this to my watch later now. I'm gonna have to
Games
see
done
this.
quick. My mom found.
I'm just a big fan of games done quick.
I
Games
am
Done
too.
Quick is great.
They are. I learn. I
Speedrunning
usually like
is
to
great.
watch
Learn a
some.
speedrun game. It's super fun.
I learn a lot about games that I play for this podcast sometimes through that because they'll talk about stuff that you would never know if you don't listen. Somebody that has a reason to talk about it.
100%.
Not the old ones. The old ones aren't as good. It's got to be the newer ones. I have a couple games. One I have to mention. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic came out in 200003. I can't end this podcast without mentioning that.
Yeah,
Good game. Episode 69, I think, for the show to hear my full review of that. But
nice.
I liked it. I still like it. I mean, I didn't play it in 03. I played it years later, but great game. Manhunt came out in 2003 also.
Oh,
A game that is violent as all hell, and I did not like it, but one of my friends in high school, he really liked this game. Like he
is
got
it this
really
one
into the
or
stealth.
two that got an A out?
It was
Manhunt
2.
2.
Okay.
So that did, yeah. Manhunt 1 didn't, but it's so violent and so brutal. Like, ugh.
Is it an urban legend that in the PlayStation 2 version, if you have the headset on and you talk, people are like, I know he's over there?
That'd be
Am I
cool.
making that up? Probably.
I can't remember.
We just had a fascination around this time with death and violence.
And
This
It was the era
Saw,
of GTA
Postal.
3.
The other game that I have to mention that also is 2003 that's not violent is Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. Came out in 2003.
Did it really?
Yes. I fucking love this game. Like, I really, really enjoyed it.
I bet you do.
My girlfriend at the time, she did too. We played it a whole bunch. Not 2003, but later. We played it a lot.
Yeah, much later. Wink, wink.
Put on your music.
I don't know.
Put it on Xbox.
I heard it was a really fucking good volleyball game. Though.
It is actually. I mean, it was just a fun game. Like, it was just something that we got really into, like Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate, which was on Xbox. Dead or Alive 3. Like, she got really into Hitomi. That's one of the characters, and like, I just remember being like, this was a game that I tried to convince her just to play. Like, this is the reason I bought a 360 at the time was because I wanted Extreme 2, which I never really played much. But
I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Hey, I got this game where it's just like a bunch of bikini-clad girls like jumping in the sand. Like, okay, honey.
She was completely okay with it.
I really am playing it for the great volleyball mechanic.
Oh, we both know why we were both playing it, so it was okay.
Buttery smooth.
Reading it for the
Soundtrack's
articles.
incredible.
Okay.
I actually had a poster of Tina in my old bedroom underneath the stairs when I was like my early 20s. But it came with the other one. But I Extreme Beach Volleyball was just really cool. I remember that, and it was just different too. I had to mention that. I don't think I have any other. I'm scrolling through the list, but I don't think there's any other games that I want to mention. Any other things you want to mention before we go on to our top 3?
I still have my number one game that I want to talk about. NBA Street Volume 2, the single best basketball game of all time. It's the logical conclusion of like NBA Jam, even though it's not NBA Jam people. It's just like the ultimate, like perfect, like arcade style basketball game. It added enough like Tony Hawk tricks and stat boosting for your character. You play it like in a way that like, but didn't get to like the sim level of like NBA 2K, but still like just maintain that perfect balance of arcade style basketball, which I really love in arcade style sports because games started getting much more like realistic and I simulation like, and I can't handle them now. But NBA Street Volume 2, not Volume 1, not Volume 3, even though it has Mario dunking on Carmelo Anthony. It was a perfect game. You play other teams and you got to take one player from each team you beat. So, you'd build a team with and then they had NBA All-Star, historical people. So I'd had Bill Russell. And so the only reason I know who Bill Russell is honestly because he was a beast who could block anybody. So when he passed last year, I'm like, I love Bill Russell because
that's one of the best players in NBA history. But
yeah, well, the only reason I know
because of this game,
but that was my gateway. But even my son is like Bill Russell rules, and then he goes and reads books about Bill Russell. So it's a really good gateway. And then 3 just upset the balance of simulation style, and then Home Court was the 360 version, and by then it was kind of lost. And because of licensing hell, it will never be re-released, but it's available through means, and it's available to play on Dolphin on your Steam Deck, and I play it all the time, and it's so good.
I don't like sports games, but I like stuff like this as long as there's some kind of campaign where I can finish it, I'm okay with it.
And I know that was what it was, and you graduated to the better street courts, more historical, from Rucker Park to other street courts throughout the country. So you got that kind of level, and then EA Sports Big just at the time was just firing on all cylinders. I mentioned SSX3. They also had Def Jam Vendetta, which is where rappers wrestle, and I think it was by Aki, the people who actually made the good wrestling games of the 64. You have Snoop Dogg fighting DMX.
Super expensive.
Yeah, another game I gave away to a friend. But what are you gonna do? It's I don't know these GameCube games. They're not selling for anything, and now I should just waited 15 years. But whatever. But EA Sports Big was just hitting on all cylinders, and NBA Street Volume 1 is my number one game of that year, and it's just my favorite sports game of all time. I love it.
Okay. Since we started that, what's your number 2 and 3?
SSX3 is my number 2, and then Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga will be number 3.
Okay. And Phoebe, what are your top 3?
Oh god, Beyond Good, Evil, Beautiful Joe, and either we've talked about in the past, either Boktai or
hell yeah,
Superstar Saga.
We can talk a little bit about Boktai. I know there's a whole episode about it. We can still talk about it. A different episode. I don't.
That's entirely.
The sun
up
is
to
in
you.
your hands.
Yeah, the sun is in your.
Ayo! Boktai that was such a cool game.
Did that game even work with the SP, or was the sensor upside down?
Yes.
Yes to both your answers, I think.
Yeah. It was completely upside down. Yeah, but you can, because the Game Boy Advance or the SP is a clamshell, you can definitely fold it up into more of a right angle.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
that's how I played Boktai 2 was on the SP version.
You should play it, Vincent. It's up your alley. Don't play a GBA. Play emulation where you can pretend.
Yeah.
To be the
Yeah,
sun.
You said there was an emulation that faked the sun, right? Or something.
Yes.
Yeah, specifically MGBA. If you use Visual Boy Advance, you're going to have to patch it yourself. But there are a few different solar sensor patches out there.
I think we got ahead of ourselves for the audience. It's a game that usually has a solar sensor that you have to use that in real life have to go outside and get the sun to power things in the game. There's an episode about it.
And the game will overheat in the game. If you're in too hot of sun for too long, the solar gun will overload. It convince you okay, you need to go inside now.
It was just Konami deciding, how can we make a kid-friendly Metal Gear Solid, but also make
Kojima?
another Castlevania
It's Kojima.
game?
Yeah, Kojima
So
could basically write blank checks at this time.
Yeah, how that worked out later for Konami.
And it's like Castlevania? I gotta go listen to this episode. Okay.
It plays more like an isometric version of Metal Gear Solid, where you can fully stealth that game, but because of the whole dark fantasy medieval universe to it, and the fact that you're fighting vampires, it has a bit of a Castlevania feel to it.
It's very good.
Fascinating.
It's a very good game.
Blair, what are your top 3?
Top 3. Let's see. I was gonna say it's great to be in this audience, as you all have very different tastes than me, and I forgot about many of the games here. So I would say 1, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. 2, Beyond Good and Evil. 3, Batman: Rise of Sinzu. So a Ubisoft trilogy.
Ubisoft
which is
trifecta.
weird. Yeah.
The guy loves Ubisoft. We know this. Blair loves it.
Hey, this was when Ubisoft was killing it.
It's this is when I didn't know that the people there were problematic and harassing women. So
Right. They're all sex pests making your Rayman. Rayman 3 also came out this time after much delay.
One thing I have to ask before I say mine. Did any of you 3 play Splinter Cell, the first one?
Just the demo on the demo disc.
I
demo,
played
and I
it
wasn't the biggest fan of it.
I played it with PS2 when I got it with Sands of Time, because all I heard was that it was so great, and then I played it and I did like a mission, and then the guy from 24 was like, you got seen once, go back to the start. And I was like, I do not have the patience for this, and returned it.
Okay.
Because that was a big like Xbox semi-exclusive for like a year, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and like I was a big Metal Gear fan, but Metal Gear also is very forgiving, where if you get seen, you can like run and hide and gun your way out. But Splinter Cell's like the first one anyway, it's very strict, where if you get seen, it's like you've been seen, you're done, and then you have to start the level over again. And I didn't have the patience for it.
Okay.
So
All right,
what are
I'll
your
go
big
last. I actually lost my list because my wife came down, took my phone because she couldn't find her phone and didn't bring it back. But from what I remember, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker probably be my number one. I want to say Animusha Tactics definitely has to be on there because that game is something else. How much it just stuck with me all this time. And then I'll say Silent Hill 3. Silent Hill 3 and Soul Calibur 2 are tied because both of those were the games that, I mean, at the time, Soul Calibur 2 really, really grabbed me. So let's say that. So, yeah.
Have you watched the run where Punchy plays Silent Hill 3 and he puts the little headband on because he actually
Sailor
gets the Sailor Moon outfit?
Yes, I have.
Love that run.
It was great. I
Anything
love
with
more
Punchy
Sailor Moon
is
references
great.
too. So, and that's essentially what it is. I'm just, before we wrap this up, have a little bit of time. I'm just looking real quick to see if anything else I missed that I feel like we have to just mention real fast. Oh, I think Dragon Ball. I have to wait. No, I don't think that's that year. I think that's a different year.
We talked a little bit about Beautiful Joe, but we didn't really go into what its weird mechanic is, which is that you are in a movie world. You are a real person who gets sucked into a movie and becomes this Super Sentai hero. So you actually get the ability of movie editing.
It's a weird
You
game.
can slow down time, speed it up, zoom in for triple damage because action scenes are too zoomed in nowadays.
Also, Max Payne 2 came out this year.
Oh, the beginning of Remedy's big, huge climb in fame.
Max Payne 2 is great.
Never played them, but Remedy's
I really
one of my favorite
enjoyed. I played all
developers
three.
because of Alan Wake and Control.
Those are both. I haven't played Control, but Alan Wake is one of my favorite games of all time. So
How do you feel about Quantum Break?
never played it.
Oh, you should play that and Control. They're both really good.
I should. I agree. I have Control on my PC. I got it in a humble bundle with Gotham Knights, which I'm going to put on the show end of this year. Blair.
No.
Hey, you almost became viral because of that game. Almost.
I did until I decided to like cut off the snake at the head.
That was so funny how that one tweet you had was like all of a sudden it started blowing up. You're like, nope, gone tweet. I love that story.
What was the tweet?
So when Gotham Knights came out, I played it and I was really looking forward to it. And I was like, I will give it the benefit of a doubt. And then I played it and finished it and was absolutely miserable the entire time because it's not good. So at the start of the game, this is coming off of 4 Arkham games where your language of traversal is firing a grappling hook in the air and gliding. In Gotham Knights, you have to do a bunch of pointlessly boring side missions to unlock your ability to glide poorly. And I basically said something to the effect of, Gotham Knights is if they started a Spider-Man game and you had to earn the ability to swing on webs by doing tedious missions. And everyone was like, oh no, what's he talking about? And other people were like, well, it's not that bad. But most people were like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I was like, I don't want to be known as this guy. So I got rid of it.
Gotham Knights also have a weird thing where Red Hood has a double jump because of Lazarus Pit powers.
Yeah, and Nightwing has a Fortnite glider, and you have to, if you do it with one, like say if you unlock Batgirl's glider by doing pointless things, then you have to do it as Nightwing, and then you have to do it as Robin, and then you have to do it as Red Hood. So let's just leave it there and say, see you in the fall when Blair has to stomach through Gotham Knights again.
See, when that
I'm gonna reach out to you. You know that.
When that game first got announced, I know this isn't a 2003 game, but
Might as well.
when they were first talking about it, I was really excited for that game because they were going, oh, you level up each character differently. And for a second, I thought they were going to actually have different level up systems for each character. Red Hood would If the more enemies you kill, the more experience you get. Nightwing could be the more brutal you are, the more experience you get, et cetera, et cetera. Stealth kills for Robin, that type of stuff. But just sounds like they're all basically the same character.
Well, care to join us at the end of the year? It'll be a fun conversation.
Oh, mate.
All right.
It'll probably be cheap by then.
Hopefully. Hopefully free.
And I have to, because I keep reading this list. Dragon Ball Z Budokai also came out 2003.
Hell yeah.
Great. Well, for GameCube came out 2003, so I can get away with it. Great game. One game that really launched Dragon Ball Z, and that's, I need to stop talking for this episode go on for 3 hours. So, first I want to say, Phoebe, where can people find you at?
I am the Let's Play Princess over on YouTube and Twitch. I make a bunch of videos, Let's Plays, challenges, all that stuff. I'm currently streaming Elden Ring foolishly, my first time through with no NPC or PC summons, no spells, no items, no nothing. Just a girl, a golden halberd, some armor, and every single major boss.
And no fun involved, it sounds like.
No, it's... I like challenge runs, so...
I can't do that. Well, I mean, anyone who listens to me knows I have to cheat.
Yeah, and I am also the LP Princess on Twitter, so follow me there.
All right.
Do people come to you on Twitter looking for awesome record recommendations?
God, if only.
And Blair, where can people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Blarcade. You can read my work at comicbookvideogames.com, including my review of the surprisingly excellent Justice League Cosmic Chaos, which has a better Metacritic score than Gotham Knights, and that's something I never thought I'd see coming.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm this close to getting that game for my son. I've heard really good things about it.
It is great. And I just wanted to add, going back to earlier, for as little as $1 a month, you can support this show on Patreon and get Mike to watch a cinematic travesty, Devil DOA Dead or Alive, the movie from producer Paul W.S. Anderson.
I really want to see that movie.
Produced by him?
Oh, yeah, from the director of The First Transporter.
Ooh, I want to see that movie more than I should want to see that movie, but
it is
100%
terrific trash, and I will totally join you for that episode.
Okay. It's also on YouTube, apparently.
It might as well be.
Yes, it is.
And Vincent, where can people find you at?
Yes, I'm one of the hosts of Some of My Friends Read Comics. It's a comic book podcast. Mike, you've been on to cover the Super Metroid comic from Nintendo Power a few years ago. We cover historical or comics we should have been covered. Right now, we're just finished up our April Fool's Day comics. We just covered Secret Invasion, which is an event we did not like, as well as All-Star Batman and Robin. So those were quite historically maligned comics. And so, but normally we cover historically good comics like Swamp Thing, which we learned actually has a character named Billy Hatcher in it, created by Alan Moore.
Does he have a giant egg?
No, he doesn't. This is from like 87. It's wild.
Just wondering.
And so you can check that out at Some of My Friends Read Comics, the podcast.
Excuse me.
You enjoyed this episode. There's over 450 other episodes of this podcast. You can find everything you're looking for on Podbean. We do a bunch of these year in gaming episodes. So if you want to see listen to our previous ones, you will see a link in the show notes of the other year in gaming episodes that I've done. I don't even remember what year to go look at that. There's not a ton.
2011 on episode 266 and November 2nd, 2021, which is, I think, officially shorter now than this episode. You're welcome, Mike. And then like in March 2022, we did 2000. We did 2002.
And I did 07 way earlier back with a much different cast.
I would be 100% back for a 1994 episode though next year.
I'm thinking about it. You got me interested to want to do 90s. I don't do 90s. I haven't done any 90s yet, so you got me thinking about it. But yeah, go check out all those. You can support the show, as you said, at Patreon. You'll see a link in the show notes. We have a monthly poll every month. I don't know what it is this month. But you can also suggest things, too. You can also join our Discord. You'll see a link in the show notes for that, too. So please, join that also. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. I don't know where the hell Yahoo is about to come from. And I also want to give a shout out to my awesome...
great Excite presence.
I thought you were going to say
I don't know. I'm tired. I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hasbury. You can follow her on TikTok. And give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, started his own podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. So definitely go check him out too. You'll see a link in the show notes to his podcast. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.